Somebody looks like they got away for a little vacation.
Yeah. Mostly on the weekends, really. Doing
How's
stuff.
that?
How about you?
No, we're in expecting child mode. My stepdaughter,
My goodness.
time between now and what she will do if she doesn't birth
Okay.
between now and then. Yeah,
Oh,
so
wow.
it's one of those sitting around waiting.
I got that son.
At the time, I have my son July 28th, it's around this time, so I
I'm
guess
trying to.
for her, it's not easy in
No,
the summer.
summer's got to be really tough.
Councilman, that's how you.
The
How you doing, Mayor?
inside of the family
How you doing?
Hey,
between
how you
How
doing?
you doing?
Good, how are you?
I,
August. It's like,
Ah.
oh my God. You know?
Yeah.
We were, in my family, we were fall and spring.
It's a good time. Well, fall, you have to make it through summer, but
Yeah,
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 being
exactly.
like giant in the middle of.
if I stamp it,
Oh, fun.
are you coming or going?
Hi, Mayor, I'm coming.
Bail money. I don't care about the legal. Oh, that's right. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Okay.
Good.
I'll get back to you tomorrow because Corey got back to me towards the end of the day.
Okay,
for,
good.
you know, and I think it probably would be like,
It's got put on permanent.
just like touch base.
Okay.
We're a minute late.
I know that they're waiting to hear
He is,
from
Yeah,
us a
we've
little
had a
bit.
couple different people.
he wanted to sue
Stop it.
and then make it down.
Something, when I spoke to him about it, the other day,
Somebody
he said,
told him
that,
it will never happen.
and I agree, his plate is so
I
full
wish he would.
that we have him doing.
Oh,
He preferred
gonna
to head off to
comes
now.
anything.
If it's not a problem at this point in time.
Sir.
Yeah, he was talking to me because we could do it too.
Hang on, what organization are you representing?
And so we might do it that
I mean,
way.
the part about it.
So either way, but yeah.
I mean, listen, if the money is the money and we're gonna give it. I
We have a roll call.
Here, Councilmember Fury,
Here.
Councilmember Lynch.
Here.
Councilmember Shortway,
Present.
Council President Rizzuto.
Here. This evening, we are pleased to have a couple of is coming up, but certainly none more delightful than the next, which is a presentation to the Trax Deli. I heard it termed the hometown deli, the Deli of Vernon. And I think once you hear the reading of the sentiment on the plaque and comments from members of the council, especially Mr. Lynch, that you will agree. Trax Deli and its owners, the late Mr. Kevin Mitchell and Scott Yankee, have given so much to the community that we thought it only right that they be recognized and their business be recognized for the efforts and the work that they have done and what they have given back to the people of Vernon. So, Mr. Lynch, here is plaque.
Thank you.
And I would ask our Vice President if you would please join Mr. Lynch.
Scott and Pat, can you come on up here for a second? I'm going to tell you, I had a little discussion with Scott before the meeting tonight because he wanted to know about coming down and everything. And if you knew Kevin, he mirrors Scott. He did not want to be here tonight. He is not the type of person that stands around waiting for accolades when he does something right. They served close to 15,000 meals free of charge or at a reduced rate by gathering all of the businesses in Vernon together to help feed the people of Vernon. This is what a community does. They take care of ourselves. And I have to say that Scott has become one of my closest friends. I wouldn't lend him money, but he's a very close friend of mine. And what I find about it, this isn't a one-time thing with him. and Pat. They're gonna take care of everybody in Vernon all the time. When the chips are down, these guys are gonna step up. And like anything else, this is what a community gets behind. People who take care of other people who feed other people. Great thing. They might not remember what you said. They might not remember what you did, but they're gonna remember how you made them feel. That's what Maya Angelou said, and I agree with her. So on behalf of the town of Vernon, I'm sorry, go ahead, Council
Oh, no,
Vice President.
I just echo your sentiments, Brian. I don't know you personally, but I've heard from so many other people in our community about all the wonderful things, how you've impacted lives with, being so caring to those, especially, during COVID. So it's definitely proud to have a business like the Tracks in our town.
And those that don't know, unfortunately, we lost Kevin at the end of April, beginning of May. Am I?
Oh, yeah, man.
It was May, okay. And I know Kevin, and Kevin wouldn't want to be here tonight. Scott doesn't want to be here tonight, and
Well, we
Pat made him
appreciate
come. We appreciate you being here. And on behalf of Vernon Township, I'd like to say in grateful appreciation for your gracious generosity during the recent pandemic. Through your efforts, you provided more than 15,000 meals to the sick and aged members of our community. Your kindness helped those in need during a national crisis. The Vernon Township Council recognizes you for stepping up at a time when you were needed the most. Thank you, Vernon Hometown Deli, the Tracks. Thank you so much. Scott, do you have anything to say?
Nope.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you.
And good luck to you. If you need anything, you know where to come to, okay?
Congratulations.
Scott, good luck, man. I'll see you in the morning. I'm
Thank
gonna
you,
get a free
guys.
coffee out of this. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. Thank you. Your kind words. Dawn Latinsix. Is she available?
Yes, good evening, everybody.
Dawn is with us this evening to talk about a project that she's bringing forward. It's called Recycle Coach. Can you enlighten us, please?
Sure. Is there a way for me to share screen? Do I have that ability at this?
Yeah,
point?
I made it so that you could. I hope that's all I have to do. Oh, good.
Are you seeing it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for your time this evening. My name is Dawn Latentich. I'm the recycling coordinator for Sussex County. And I'll add a former Vernon resident of 9 years in Lake Walkill to give me some more legitimacy to all of you. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of Kim Stewart, who is our New Jersey representative for Recycle Coach, but I can give you a really good perspective from the county because we are implementing this in multiple towns across the county. And this is a phone and internet app that allows us to teach residents how to recycle correctly. So let me make this bigger. Are you seeing the whole thing? Or are you? Am I?
Yes,
Yes.
okay, fine.
Get that out of the way. Okay. So New Jersey DEP has provided this free application. Whoop, let's go back. Where again, residents can either download to their phones, or what we're hoping also to do is have Vernon place this on their website, probably under your recycling tab. Right now you have it, you're recycling under the services tab. And there are a variety of things a resident can then do to find out how to recycle correctly without constantly calling, up the town itself, not knowing what to do, throwing things in the garbage because they didn't know it could be recycled. So this is a way for us, instead of just mailing out, the old fashioned flyers, that people can just add a touch, get the answers to the recycling questions. So the list here is what I'm going to go over is the different things that can be done with this app. And it's very robust, and it is being used successfully in multiple towns in Sussex County. The biggest thing is this what goes where feature, where people can type in, what do I do with batteries? What do I do with tires? And you as a township would, on the backside, fill in, whether it could be taken to your recycling center, but it's really helpful for residents to be able to figure out, when they have this, one-off thing to recycle, what do they do with it? We also have the ability to put in a calendar. You already have a very, strong township calendar with all your township events. This would be a calendar on Recycle Coach that you could put the recycling center's operating hours, which can be, I think, a little confusing to your residents, being that it's different hours, different days. One night is a late night. So all of that would be available to them on this app. In addition to typing in their question, how do I recycle tires? People can also just take a picture of something, and this app is able to recognize it through image recognition and then give them that same answer. Take your tires to SCMUA, or the example shown there. Like, if people don't know what it is and whether it can be recycled, they can just take a photo. There's an extensive material database. Again, that would be provided to you through Recycle Coach, and then you would just edit it if there's specific things that go to your recycling center or not. And they have 15,000 different search terms. So if somebody's calling it a soda can, somebody's calling it a pop can, it recognizes those distinctions and will still give everybody the right answer. There's also on this app the ability for them to type in if they have a problem. And you can, again, on the back end, have those questions or those concerns directed to somebody at the township, a certain phone number or a generic email, where they can put in a question that wasn't answered or they got the wrong information on. As a client, the township would be able to gather very valuable information on the users, how many people are actually using the app, what is it they're searching for, what do people have the most questions on, and that becomes helpful when we try to train or put education information out there. You can look at the calendar, you can see how many people are on their phone using it, how many people are on their to the town, and whoever is going to be administering the Recycle Coach on the back end. This item, the notifications, is something that I use a lot that you could do as well, where Vernon Township could push out notifications for, say, the paper shred that's coming up on Saturday. Anybody who has downloaded the app would then get a reminder on their phone that the paper shred is going to be from 9 to 3 this coming Saturday. You can also put in there, I push out from the county when we're having our county events, like our electronic waste event. So it's another way to get this information out directly to the residents without them having to search for it. These are just alerts that are just going to come up on their phone, and you can choose which ones you want to put out. You can also just make a draft one that gets sent on a regular basis. You can send it out immediately. You can even do an emergency alert if for some reason you needed to notify them that paper shred is canceled for this Saturday. This would be a quick way for it to get up on the website and or right to their phones. Recycle Coach has Webb widget which will help the town place this onto the website and actually match it so it looks like it is native to your website. I know you just redid your website, so color scheme, they're going to make it look native to your page. And the Kim, who's not able to be here tonight, is the person that will work directly with the township on how to get this up on the website. She provides full service to get everything running, and she's always very responsive with questions. In terms of placement, she also advised and helped decide where to put it on the web page. And this just shows how the increase they got after placing it and where they're placing it on the web page actually makes a difference in how many visitors that you get and how many searches you get, which shows the use of the program. Just want to check on a few other things that I wanted to tell you about. Some other advantages, I think, for new residents, this is another tool for them. If they saw it right on your webpage, they could go in and learn all about the fact that you don't have curbside recycling, that you do have a recycling center. So it would alleviate probably a lot of the questions that you get. Again, it's useful for your bulk pickup events, notifying them of your special township events, the paper shred, etc. And we have launched it very successfully. Sparta Township has a lot of users, as well as Andover Township. Hampton Township is starting to backfill and get that up on their webpage. And from a county perspective, again, we're trying to educate people. People kind of get the basics of recycling, but as you know, you may think something's recyclable, and in reality, while it looks like the right type of plastic, it's not. And that can cost the town and the county money if people are putting the wrong things into recycling. So I think it's the next wave of communication and education tools is to do it this way, through technology, through the web and the phone app. And we're excited that we're able to offer the essential package with no cost. DEP is doing this statewide for any towns that want to enroll. And like I said, the support that now we have Kim, who is dedicated totally to New Jersey, has been wonderful this past year to help get the towns up and running and also to answer any questions. She's very sorry she's not able to be here tonight, but I'd be happy to answer what I can from my perspective. And I think Ed Babcock was going to try to attend as well.
Thank you. Any members of the council have any questions?
Yeah, I do, Pat.
Yes, Mike.
Dawn, does this program have anything to do with Sustainable New Jersey?
Not directly. I did look at Sustainable New Jersey to see if by implementing it, you could get, credits, if you will, or units or points towards Sustainable New Jersey. It's not called out specifically, but there is an education and public outreach part of Sustainable New Jersey. So you might be able to use it partially to satisfy that, but doing it by itself did not seem like that was enough when I looked through the Sustainable New Jersey to get you your full certification units. But it's definitely still an important tool from a sustainability standpoint, because again, if we're not going to meet people where they are, as we're getting younger residents coming in and people are more tech savvy, this is how we're going to reach them. This is how we're going to get those questions answered and get people to recycle more.
Yeah, the other question, you launched this from the township website, but is there a phone app?
Yes, people can download it from the Apple Store.
So there is a phone app.
Correct. And it's even, there's an Android and an iPhone based app that they can download. And again, you'd be able to see, and I can see it from the county level, how many people are using the phone app versus how many people are actually clicking on it on your website.
Yeah. And the county sets this whole program up, and is there any cost to the township for maintaining it, or is it all done through the county?
The county doesn't set it up. Recycle Coach will set it up. It's the state that's actually paying for it. So the essential package, which is what we went over today, is free. There's, of course, they can go to higher packages if you chose to, but those are more, nice to haves, like little quizzes for kids, or, ways to give education awards to a resident if they wanted to click through some editorial, education type things. But the essential package is what we're looking at. And that's what most of the towns, all of the towns in Sussex County are doing. I'm not sure how many people have opted in for the one that actually costs money, because the basic one is really so robust in what we're trying to accomplish. There's no cost to us.
Good. And the last question is for the mayor and Chuck. Is this something that we're going to look to implement with our DPW, or?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been talking with Ed Babcock, and it's been on the list, for each of the towns when I talk to them on the county meetings that we have. And he just thought this was an opportune time, given that you have just redone your website,
Right.
which looks awesome. And now, like I said, they can match your look of the website. And since you are, launching this new website, why not launch this, which has been in everybody's kind of like to-do list. And it just felt like an opportune time to bring it to your attention. And it's one of my goals to try to bring on more towns. And you're one of the larger towns in Sussex County. So if we can succeed in having more of your residents understand recycling, then not only is your town benefiting, but the county's benefiting as well.
Yeah. No, thank you, Don. That's excellent. Do we have to, and this is back to Chuck and to the mayor or the town council president, do we have to pass a resolution to get into this program? Or do we just take advantage of it and do it?
Sounds to me like it's available, just a question of making it known to the public. We can put it on our website and
I was
promote it.
I was remiss in not mentioning that Recycle Coach also has a whole bank of ways that you can then publicize once you are going forward with it. All different flyers, and that'll become available too, that you can put out electronically, print, things that you can have at your Vernon days or, other happenings that will let everybody know that it is available.
Well, I fully support it. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any other questions?
Just a comment, Mr. Council President, as an indication of our interest in it. The Ed Babcock, who is our head of DPW, is here tonight. And I don't think that a resolution is necessary, although it wouldn't hurt. All that we need to do is to take a look and see as a governmental body whether or not we think that this is a good thing for our town. I know Chuck is very intimate with the website and with the web designer. We could just put it on. So, it's no cost to the town. She's taking a close look at our website. I like the idea that she can customize it to our color scheme, make it blend in right with what we're doing. She understands where we have our recycling under what tab and what have you. So it's something we can do. Am I correct on that, Chuck? Yes. Yeah. So we'll move forward on it.
Thank you.
That's okay. No one has an objection.
I do have a question about the app. You just talked about gathering information as far as what common searches are through the app. And I'm sure it is, but the information you gather is not specific to people. You're not gathering data on specific people, just generally as a whole.
No, it's just on the information that's been searched.
So you would never have information.
Kim would be
on
able to
particular-
talk. Yeah, Kim has the more specifics on that, and that can be provided, but it's more data on, how many people looked for what to do with styrofoam.
And never gathering information on who actually looked. Okay, I didn't think you did. I just wanted to make sure
No,
that we're not
great
data mining our
Great question.
residents.
Thank you. Well, it sounds like that this is a very, very positive feature of that's being brought forward and can be made available to the township and its community. Sure, the mayor and our business administrator will do whatever is necessary to make its availability well known. Excuse me.
That's great. Thank you so much for your
Thank you
time,
for
and I
coming
look forward
forward.
to working with everybody on getting it going forward.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving along. This evening, we have with us representatives from businesses in our community, FW Webb. They're here to make a presentation to the council regarding, I guess, some expansion plans.
That's correct. May I come up to the?
Please up to the podium and
I have, I hope, or at least I think we do, on the video screen, a representative from the.
There's somebody there.
That's.
Yep.
And
Thank you.
Macbeth, and this gentleman is Jim Medwick. That's right. And he is handing out the materials that I think
Thank you.
you've already seen, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to give.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And you are absolutely right, Mr. Council President. Just so that it's clear, my name is Roger W. Thomas. I'm with Dolan and Dolan. This is a business that has been at the location since 2018. It is for some time This business is without problems, without any difficulties. And it has come to the point where we believe that it would be appropriate for us to somewhat of an expansion. We are not intending to expand what is area right now, so that it's clear that an outside storage area. Well, expand that a little bit because this business is doing well and they are improving their business and they like to expand to continue this business. We understand that the council and the mayor are much in favor. Oh, excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit. I'm talking too much. That's something that most people don't find as a problem with an attorney. But I'll just go from there. In any event, the bottom line is that we think we are doing something that is an advantage not only to our business, but also to the citizens of Vernon. We are in the town center zone. As you know, this is a redevelopment area. There is two components to that. We are in one component. There is another component that is a light industrial. You will see from that map that we are lot 1, and we are actually one lot away from where the light industrial actually is. We are off of Black Creek Drive. We are not that far excuse me, from Route 94. And again, this matter has been going on, this application has been going on for some time. What I'd like to do now is introduce you to, I hope, yes, there he is. Mr. Andy, if you'd be kind enough just to identify yourself for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm Andy Macbeth with Greenleaf Construction. I'm here on behalf of FW Webb. We are their construction manager, and we handle their civil permitting as well as design.
Thank you. Andy, why don't you, I think you can probably better than I explain what it is that's going on at the site, what you have been doing, and generally speaking from a global viewpoint, how this expansion will occur, what your plan is, and what you hope to accomplish with that plan.
Basically, what we're looking to do is, as you mentioned, Roger, is to increase the outside storage yard a bit. There's a yard in the back. It's not very useful the way it is now. And, generally clean up the site a little bit. We're going to repave, redo the loading dock a little bit, those kinds of things. Very kind of minor improvements to the outside, but basically it'll allow us to be more efficient by having more outside storage and allow us to have, sell more products basically. So. And
can you advise the members of the council and the mayor and also the folks that are here, what is the business that is being done by FW Webb? What do they do at that site?
FW Webb is a wholesaler of plumbing and HVAC supplies. They're basically selling wholesale to plumbing contractors, HVAC contractors, things of that nature.
And it's my understanding that that business has been going on since 2018.
Yes, that's when FW Webb purchased the master's supply. Yep.
And in fact, the idea is that business will continue with this expansion. It'll just give FW Webb greater flexibility in terms of being able to improve its business and to better serve the clientele, which are the contractors that it's servicing, not only here in Vernon, but also generally in the area. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, all of you now have a copy of the map. Andy, I'm going to ask if you could just generally describe, and he has a map, you have the map. Can you just generally describe where the expansion is? And first of all, as I understand it, there is no expansion. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was the question? There's no expansion of the building? Correct. No expansion of the building.
All right.
Basically, the outside storage yard would be on the right side of the plan. There's currently a small yard there now. And we'd be looking to expand that to the right, which is mostly to the north, to the right of the page.
And you also, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mayor, you also have a series of pictures. They are identified as obviously picture 1 through 3, et cetera, et cetera. Andy, do you have that same set of pictures?
Yes.
Let's go, excuse me, to picture number 1. Can you describe what that is and is that an existing condition?
Yes, that's an existing condition. That's the storefront. That's where the contractors enter to the left, where the car is. And it's looking up Black Creek Drive.
Okay, and then picture 2 is what?
That's looking in from Black Creek Drive on the, looking at the loading dock.
And picture 3 shows what?
This is looking down from Black Creek Drive. This is the showroom entrance and office entrance. This is the kind of exposed side of the building.
And then picture 4 is what elevation or what is it showing from where to where?
It's looking from picture 3, looking up the hill towards the main street there, McAfee Vernon Road.
And in fact, those buildings that are in that, they are, I want to make it very clear, what are those buildings used for?
They're commercial buildings.
These are not residences, correct?
Correct.
Picture 5, what does that show?
This is the southeast corner, looking up the hill, kind of to the left of what you were just looking at.
And does that then show the area? One of the things that we are talking about is that this site currently is, that site obviously is not going to change. Is that an indication of the amount and extent of the vegetation that's already there, that has been there for, well, certainly since you've, or since FW Webb has been involved, but it's been there a lot longer than that, correct? These are all mature trees?
Correct, yes.
And there are, and it's that kind of a buffer that's already in existence on 2 sides of the building. Is that also correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now let's go to picture number 6. What does that describe?
That's looking at the current outside storage yard, which is kind of to the rear of the building. This is the area that we would be expanding.
And if you go then to the map, that outside storage area that is in picture 6, that is obviously a smaller area, but that's what's the area that is on the right side of the plan, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, can you tell us what is envisioned with this expansion? How are you going to shield the outside area, and will that have a beneficial, in your opinion, effect on the aesthetics of the property generally on site and in the general area?
Yes, so as you stated, on 2 sides, we have existing natural buffer. And then on the south side or the bottom of the page, we'll be adding landscaping. We're also have topography on our side where we'll have a retaining wall there because we're below McAfee Vernon Road. So we'll have a retaining wall there. So we're actually kind of cutting into the hill. So we're kind of below everything. So.
And the plan is that with that expansion, the current area now, as I understand it, is not macadam. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you will be putting macadam in so that it will be better controlled?
Yes, and new stormwater improvements associated with that.
Right. And then the area will be enclosed. Why don't you describe for the members of the council and the mayor and members of the public what kind of fencing you're proposing so that this area can be now buffered and masked further from the public, in addition to what you've already described, which is the natural buffer as well as the topography.
There'll be an 8-foot chain link fence that'll be black vinyl coated with black slats to obscure the view.
Okay. And let's go to the next picture, picture number 7. This one you may need to describe a little bit more. What is it intended to show so that members of the council can get a better feel of what the intent here is?
The intent of this picture is just to show that our property is 40 feet below McAfee Vernon Road from the street level, basically. So we're kind of below everything.
Okay. And when you say that road reference, that's an interesting reference. I've always known it as Route 94. That's one and the same, correct?
Yes, I was sorry. I was reading that out of the town center plan. So
I understand, but we're really talking about Route 94. And so
Yes.
you're saying this drawing or this photo is intended to show that there is a significant topographic difference between Route 94 and your property, correct?
yes.
All right. Photograph 8, what does that indicate?
This is an aerial view just to show in blue, where the outside storage yard is proposed.
Okay. Now, there's a couple of photos. You can take them as you choose. There are photo number 9A and 9B and 10. Why don't you, let's go with 9A and 9B. What are they intended to show? What are they, first of all? And what are they intended to show for purposes of illustration?
This is a picture of FW Webb's outside storage yard in Egg Harbor, New Jersey. And it's showing that basically all of the products in the yard are new, basically. So there's PVC pipe, propane tanks, things of those nature that are all new, unused products that would be sold.
And excuse me, and the way they are aligned in a very orderly manner, even though we're providing the fence and providing the slats, they will be, the materials that you're going to keep, they will be kept in that kind of a manner?
Yes.
All right. Now, this site is in Egg Harbor, as the photos indicate, this site is in Egg Harbor, New Jersey, correct?
Correct.
And while we're showing it for purposes of illustration, that what they intend to do and what they have done in other sites, very orderly and appropriate storage of materials so that they do look appropriate. It's not going to be this big, correct? That's not the intent here.
Correct. It'll be smaller than this yard.
Okay. I guess there's one final, I've got one more picture, which is picture 10. Is that another location of FW Webb?
Correct. In Concord, New Hampshire.
And again, is that the method by which FW Webb is intending to keep that outdoor storage in an orderly fashion?
Yes.
Okay. Going back to the map, Andy, you indicated that there were natural buffers. You talked about two sides, excuse me, of where the trees are. When you look at the map, forget for the moment north, south, east, or west. I always get confused about that when I look at them. The top of the map, and is that where that one natural buffer is?
Yes.
And as you go to where the expansion is proposed, the outdoor storage, on that side, the right side, is that also where there is a natural tree buffer similar to, or in fact, that is the one that was shown on the plan or on the photo?
Yes.
And lastly, the drawing to the bottom of the page, is that indicative of the slope that is there as indicated in picture number, I think it was 7, which is the one that indicates that there is a significant drop between Route 94 and this property, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Basically, is there any other current, well, that's one other thing. Currently, the access, as you've already indicated, is from Black Creek Drive, correct?
Yes.
And the property will continue to be accessed from Black Creek Drive?
Yes.
There is an area, in addition to what we were talking about, quote unquote, the expansion area, there is an area sort of to the top of the drawing within the property lines. That area is already being used, and it is now described, I have to take my glasses off. It is now described as construction new pavement. What is that area used now as part of your operation?
Yes. Yep. That's current outside storage, and it's also, truck access to the loading dock.
Okay. And as indicated, there is a loading area that accesses the building in that area that's on the top of the drawing, correct?
Correct.
And as shown, you're going to change that area only in the sense that you're going to put macadam there to make it more appropriate, correct?
Yes.
And that will also, of course, be dealt with by way of your stormwater management plan when we get to that point. Is that also correct?
Yes.
Is there anything that I have not covered with you that you feel is appropriate for the members of the council and the mayor and the members of the public that you feel is necessary to be advised to them?
No, I think you've covered it.
All right. We think this is now I also have Mr. Madwick here. He is the manager of the local site. I can have him give some information if you would like in terms of hours of operation. They won't change. In terms of lighting on the building, that won't change. If you want, I mean, we can give a little bit of background if you'd like to do that, but things on the building and that sort of thing is not going to change. There will be some lighting, but we will indicate during the course of any kind of a site plan that would be only security lighting. Just so it's clear, the hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Therefore, as you can understand, most of the time, lighting is not going to be necessary. Of course, roughly November, December, January, February, there's going to be a need for lighting. That lighting will be, of course, concealed source, downwardly lit, as is usually the case. And once the business is closed for the evening, there will be an attempt to try to make sure that it gets reduced down in whatever mechanism is appropriate. And that's really a planning question that we would work with your planner and with your engineer to make sure that that is done. But we wanted to at least express that we have that understanding and it's pretty clear that it's not going to be a burden to the surrounding properties. Not that there's any residents in the area, but nonetheless. With that, but again, if you'd like to hear directly from Mr. Madwick, he is here. I've asked him to be present so that if you have any local questions of any sort, he's available to do that.
Thank you. Please.
Anything that I say is incorrect in terms of the operation that.
No.
Okay.
No, I think you illustrated it perfectly. Our hours of operation are correct. The intent of what we're trying to do is also correct. But we work within the confines of the town, so.
With that, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Council President, members of the council, we're here now to request what we think is not really a change, but more of a tweak. That sounds like double talk, but we think that this is not a major change in regard to your town center. We know that you have spent a great deal of time and effort to make town center come to life. You've done that. You've had a very good planner help you through that process. You have a very good engineer to help you through that process. We want to work with them, but it is important to understand that there are two components to the town center zone. We are in one, we admit, but we are one lot away from the light industrial zone. And if you look at those uses, they are not exactly what we do, but they are incredibly similar to what we do. And therefore, we think that there's only a matter of some very small tweaking. It's not a major change with regard to your town center zone. It's simply a small tweak. And this operation has been in existence for 4 years. And before that, it was in operation with another owner. So it's been around for a long time. There's been no complaints. We think this is just an expansion. We want to be able to be good neighbors and to try to expand the business, which we think obviously is good for the client, but we also think it's good for Vernon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President,
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about something here, and all of the information that you gave us and everything that you want to do, I'm all good with. Unfortunately, we've been having this issue with Black Creek Drive. Who is the owner of Black Creek Drive?
I'm sorry, who is the owner?
Yeah, and we're pretty confident, but we're not 100% sure that the town owns that property.
We'll go with your opinion.
So what is it going to take the town to actually take ownership of this property? Because we can't do any paving on any of that Black Creek until we know that that is going to be our property. We own the property to do it. The meets and bounds are all set already on what your owner has and ours are set. So that's the only question I have, and it's got nothing to do with you guys. So, we're going to have to work on getting ownership of that property. However it takes. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what to do to go to court to get it, but we need to do that.
I'm not sure that I need to respond to that, given what Mr. Lynch has said, but I will say that our operation is not going to change that situation one iota. It's a problem today. It'll be a problem 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now. We hope when you authorize Ms. Caldwell to do some modifications and when we come before the land use board to get an approval for what we're talking about. That problem, whatever it may, will be here today, and 2 weeks, 2 months from now, it will still be the problem. We will not cause any difference in that problem.
Have you shared the proposed zone change with the planner?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we have. And I believe she is here.
Question. There is a significant height drop from 94 to where your building is sited.
Yes, sir.
One of the things I've always seen in some of the industrial areas where you have buildings like this and they have loading docks is, cars parked, heavy downpour and guys running to get there and move the cars before they're covered up with water. Do you anticipate any problem with water building up on the area outside of the loading zone?
No, as a matter of fact, quite frankly, that's one of the reasons why I'm only an engineer, and that's all I am. But I've represented enough planning boards and land use boards and zoning boards to pick up a couple of things about engineering. So take it with a grain of salt. But one of the things that we are certainly concerned about is making sure that whatever the runoff is, because we know that you can put down gravel and all that, which is what's there now, but that's frankly impervious, just like asphalt is. So what we're doing is we're putting down pervious so that can be then controlled, and there will be a stormwater management plan. Frankly, it's probably, if to the extent that it's there now, it's probably inadequate, and we're going to upgrade that. That's number one. Number two, you've heard Mr. McBeth indicate that in fact on the upper part of the drawing, where there is currently that again gravel abutting where the truck is going to be and the loading dock is, that's also going to be asphalt so that there's not going to be a problem. That will be better controlled so that the runoff, as you've described, potentially with gravel can just get all over the place and be a total mess. With the asphalt, we're going to control that problem. Now, in terms of the parking, you will also note that on the bottom of the drawing, if you will, which I think is the southerly side, but nonetheless, you will see that the vast majority of the parking is on that southerly side. So there's not going to be an interference in terms of traffic or traffic flow between the trucks that come into service the site and provide materials and the employees that are going to be there. They're on the southerly side. So there's not going to be that. And there is at least some limited at this point, but some potential for retail. But anybody that comes to the site that's not an employee and not a truck driver, they are going to be coming to the front of the building, which would be abutting Black Creek Drive. So there's parking there for them. There's parking for the employees and plenty of parking for the employees on the southerly or the lower side. Free access, which is designed specifically for the trucks. Now we've taken into account the concern that you've raised in terms of runoff, rain, and all of the things that happen when you don't have proper drainage. We're going to do that by way of I don't even know if there is such a word as macadaming.
Yeah, it's full.
I just made it up.
Thank you. The secondly, you're going to put up 8-foot-high cyclone fences or chain link fences?
We're asking for that because we believe that that is appropriate for not only for our purposes, but also for purposes of making sure that we are doing everything that we can to shield, which is now not currently being done. That when FWB came in, they took over the site, they've operated as it was. We're trying to improve the site. If you want to put it in terms of the land use, we're trying to aesthetically improve and provide for a visual improvement of the site, which is a purpose of zoning. I know you guys don't necessarily get involved in that. I do all the time, but it is an important element, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. That's why we think the 8-foot fence is appropriate. I know it's high. It's usually something along the line of 6 foot, but in this particular case, we are dealing with a site that is not residential. And therefore, we think that the appropriateness of an extra 2 feet, which is probably the difference that we're talking about, is in fact the right thing to do.
The fact that it borders an entrance to a park, would you consider some type of arboreal separation
I'm sorry, what kind of a separation?
trees or something.
I'm sure that we can discuss that. You know, your planner is certainly very imaginative, and so is your engineer. If it turns out that there seems to be a need during a planning process whereby maybe in addition to the 8-foot fence, there'd be some additional landscaping, we're certainly open to that.
Okay, and you also putting black slats, are they vinyl slats or what?
Well, I'm not sure. Well, Andy, do you have that worked out? How is that something you've got detailed on?
Yes, it's a PVC slat. It's a vinyl coated fence, so it's black.
And what kind of security you're going to have there? You're going to have late night security with city lights or what?
There'll be some security lighting and there'll probably be some cameras.
Cameras? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Pat, I have a question.
Certainly.
Is Allison, our planner, in the meeting tonight?
No, Al?
Jessica.
Jessica.
I'm sorry, Jessica, our planner. I apologize. Can she I just want to clarify
Certainly.
what needs to be done from a planning standpoint.
Is that
I'm
the
up here.
podium now?
Hi, Jessica.
Sorry,
Caldwell.
Jessica. I apologize for that.
Good evening, everyone. Just letting Mr. Thomas finish up, but what I would recommend, if the council is interested in this project, is an amendment to the redevelopment plan. And essentially what it would do is bring this parcel into what we already have as a light industrial overlay zone. And then we would do some tweaks to permitted uses to allow the project to move forward. We would allow for the 8-foot vinyl fence, but also landscaping to buffer and being sensitive to the fact that there is a park at the end of the road. And just that it is the town center. So I think there's a little more than just some kind of regular type of light industrial zone. But that area, because it's off of Route 94, we did have some light industrial to the back of Black Creek Drive. So it'd be a matter of bringing it in to that existing zone. The types of uses are contemplated. So it's not a huge change, but it does need to be done in order to, because use variances aren't permitted in the redevelopment zone, it would need to be a plan. What I would recommend is a plan amendment, not like we've done with some other bigger projects where we do their own plan. It would just be an amendment to the existing plan to make the changes as necessary. But we would want to make sure that, as long as the council's in favor, then, and you say so tonight, we could start right away, and the applicant is, proposing to pay for the changes.
Thank you. Are there
A
any comments?
resolution? Do we need a resolution to pass a resolution in order to move forward? We just have
Just a
to.
motion of general assent.
So I think just a motion to, authorize me to do the work would be sufficient.
That's sufficient.
Base landscape.
Thank you.
Makes sense to me.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? No? Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
But now that Jessica's left, I hardly concur, and I would ask that you pass that motion tonight. I don't know when you do that. I don't know if this would be out of order. To do that now, I would certainly request that. I would like not to have to stay, but I will be happy to stay for a while to see that motion gets passed, but it's up to you. It's obviously, not mine, but I would request that such a motion be passed for the reasons I've already expressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat, can we make a motion to pass that right now?
Certainly. But
I'd
first,
like to
before we
make a
do that,
motion.
but
I'm sorry.
are we clear with what we need?
This is just a motion to authorize Jessica to do the work to the amendment to the redevelopment.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yes, to make the motion.
I'll make a motion to make those changes to the redevelopment zone.
Thank you, Mike. There's a motion on the floor now to have our planner perform the necessary work to effectively revise and change or tweak, as you might call it, the redevelopment zone for this project. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Are there any questions, comments? If not, I'll have a roll call vote, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Absolutely, yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes, with the stipulation that the town moves forward to taking ownership of Black Creek Drive. Whatever we have to do legally.
Councilmember Shortway.
He's muted.
Are you muted?
Yes.
Vice President Rizzuto, I'm sorry, Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening.
Good luck.
Good night.
Good luck.
Okay. Moving into discussion items. We have resolution 22-160, resolution authorizing the mayor municipal clerk to execute per diem mutual aid agreement for water emergency standbys as requested through the Sussex County Fire Coordinator on an as-needed basis. May I have a motion to place this on the floor for discussion?
I'll make
I'll
a
make a,
motion.
oh, sorry.
Motion made by Mrs. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. Are there any questions? I believe we have
Virgil Rome,
Mr. Virgil Rome here. He's the
Fire Marshal.
fire marshal from Sussex County. Perhaps he can give us some background on this.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here to hopefully answer your questions about this. I understand there's been a little bit of confusion over this proposed ordinance, and hopefully I can answer those questions tonight. It's my understanding that the questions may have emanated from the fact that when I proposed this at a county chiefs meeting, there were no representatives from Vernon at the meeting. So they brought it back to you without having the knowledge that I had put out there. So the cities in Bergen, Hudson, Essex County are all serviced by city water supply systems. And as a result of that, those towns and those fire departments do not have water tankers or tenders, as we refer to them. So when there's an incident in the cities and the water system goes down, they reach out to the rural counties, which include Sussex, for us to bring our equipment to them to stand by for them. This has gone on for a number of years. There's been discussion over and over and over again about having somebody pay for it. The issue is for us, we're all volunteers. On top of that, if we take our equipment to the cities for an extended period of time, it taxes both our volunteer manpower, but also puts our communities at risk because now our equipment isn't here in case something happens here. For about the last 5 years, there was discussion about them using Homeland Security money to provide each of the rural counties with a water tanker truck, basically as a quid pro quo situation that if we give you this truck, when we call you, you need to come. That's been hung up in the grant process and really hasn't gained much steam. On top of that, there was an issue with the water companies saying it's the city's problem, it's not our problem. And the city's saying you maintain the water system as the water company, you're responsible. They finally hashed that out. And at the beginning, either at the end of last year or beginning of this year, the water companies have agreed to reimburse the towns that come to the cities for these water emergencies. And what I didn't say earlier was these events seem to be occurring more often now. because of the age of those city water systems, most of them are well over 100 years old. And they are very huge water mains that when they break, the entire city could be out of water. So what happens is at 11 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning, my phone rings. And one of the hats I wear is county fire coordinator, where I'm in charge of all mutual aid incidents. And I'm responsible for resources deployment. So at 11 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning, I scrambled to call departments to find volunteers to go to the city. So now with the water companies agreeing to provide reimbursement at the FEMA rates for the trucks, as well as for each of the manpower that go, what I had asked departments to do was to stand up and say, if you call us, we will come. And to do that by having a local resolution or ordinance, giving them the go-ahead to do that and to have it in writing, so I know precisely who to call. And part of that ordinance was to suggest that you put language in there that any money that is recouped through the reimbursement from the water companies will make its way back to the local fire departments instead of becoming lost somewhere in local government and not getting to the fire companies. So the long and short of this is, and I think the confusion was that it was thought that this was a charge for all mutual aid, where Vernon goes to Wantage for a structure fire or to Hardiston, and that's not what it is at all. It's only for water-related emergencies in the city areas out of Sussex County. So we would not be charging our neighbors. We would not be charging our fellow Sussex County residents. We would be going after the private independent water companies that are servicing the cities when one of their mains break and they reach out to us to come down there and stand by. And just one other thing, and then I'll take any questions you have. These things go on for extended periods of time. They've been for 8 hours. They've been for 16 hours. They've been for 24 hours. They've been for entire weekends. So to have 2 or 3 of your volunteers go down there and lose their whole weekend, the least, and to take your apparatus there, the least we can do is try to get some remuneration for that. So that's it in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. Let's just give me for instance, what you're saying is then should, let's say Jefferson, which is Passaic County, outside of Sussex County, experience loss of water because of a water main break or some other situation, that Vernon would be bringing or could be requested to bring their tankers over into that area to satisfy water needs, and they would be compensated via a FEMA route?
Well, first off, it probably would never happen in Jefferson because Jefferson is also a town that doesn't have many fire hydrants, and they already have tankers of their own,
Okay.
as well as their neighboring departments in Morris and Passaic County have them. This plan, this initiative is designed for urban areas.
So we go further down Route 3 into the Union City, Secaucus, whatever areas down there. Does this situation then apply then?
Yes.
And who would cover Vernon then? If Vernon had to send its tankers down there, or a majority of them, who then would cover Vernon with tankers so that our residents remain protected?
Well, each department in the county has what's called a box alarm, which is all pre-planned ahead of time. And it's used almost on a daily basis here, where mutual aid from surrounding towns would be more than sufficient.
So the surrounding towns would not go down as well, or they would, or towns would be ticked as necessary, like an alarm?
It would be as necessary if we were requested to go to Jersey City or Newark. We're only going to be requested to send 2 or 3 units because Warren County is also going to be asked. Hunterdon County is going to be asked. Morris County is going to be asked. So between 4 counties, there'll be 12 trucks,
I see.
not all from Sussex County.
Thank you.
Council President, apparatus from this town, they will not be deleted that we're not covered. We will always be covered.
Thank you.
And you're very fortunate that you have 4 departments here
Yeah.
with a lot of resources.
And can we refuse if we're asked to go? Can we say we don't have the manpower, we're not able? If we,
Well, what I'm doing is I'm developing a pool.
Mhm.
There are already 6 towns in the county that have done this. I'm gonna basically do first come, first serve.
Okay.
And if any chief says to me, it's not a good time for us, or we can't do it this time, I'll go on to
the next one. So there's no obligation. Okay,
Absolutely not.
if we're not staffed.
Completely volunteer.
Damage to the vehicles or to the equipment is covered by,
That should be included.
okay.
So,
I had, just so everybody realizes, I had gone down to Jersey City twice and spent the first time 17 hours there, and Virgil called us for that one too. And then we had spent another time there, and it's a long, it's an hour to get there, and then you
Yeah.
spend 17 hours there, and it's not like you're just sitting around. When you're in the city, you got to go and do things,
Yeah.
you know?
This also occurs during weather-related events.
mhm.
Hurricane Sandy, we were asked to go to the shore, but of course, those things are pretty much automatically covered by FEMA.
Okay.
So that would be separate from billing these private entities, the water companies.
So I understand what you're saying, but when I read this ordinance, it doesn't specify that it's for urban areas. So
Urban areas are denoted by fire hydrants.
does it say that in here, fire hydrants?
Anybody that has a water system is what we're talking about.
It says that in here, though. I mean, it,
We use the form resolution that was provided to us.
okay. But it, I mean, I'm not an attorney and I'm not a fireman. So when I'm reading this, it doesn't seem to me that with this, so I just wondered if the resolution is clear enough. But I mean, can you point out where it says fire hydrant,
Frankly, what I sent out was boilerplate
boilerplate?
resolution that was sent to me by Morris County, which is what they're using.
This extraordinary occurrences, including water emergency system.
These water emergencies can only occur in cities and towns that have fire hydrants.
Oh, okay,
Otherwise, they would be drafting from a lake.
okay.
Right. Hey, Pat,
Yes, Mike.
Virgil, I have a question for you. I'm up in the box here. The reimbursement are not, it's not coming from a public water utility. It's coming from like a private water utility, such as like New Jersey American or Suez. Is that what you're talking about? Where the reimbursement?
Yes. Exactly.
So it's not a public water utility. You're serving systems that are operated by private water utilities.
Correct.
And then
I
you're
don't
gonna
know
get
if Jersey
reimbursed by the,
City,
well, Jersey City is operated by Suez.
right,
So Newark is operated by the city. You would never go into the city of Newark because it's not operated by a private entity. But meaning that they reimburse you, Virgil, and then for all the expenses. And that's kind of what you're looking to do, right, Virgil?
Well, it may not technically be for all expenses. It's going to be a reimbursement at the current FEMA rate. FEMA
All right.
has a pay scale for each type of truck, and they have a pay rate for officers, and they have a pay rate for firefighters, which is a national rate that FEMA adopts.
Right. So if Vernon Township does this, they'll get reimbursed and it'll be beneficial for the Vernon Township Fire Departments.
Right, it would be a per hour reimbursement.
Which is a good thing.
We've had this before with Hurricane Irene and Lee. We submitted to FEMA applications for relief, and we've received money from FEMA already.
Right.
And it took a while, but we got money from Sandy too.
But Brian, it is a good thing, right? It's
Yeah, this
from-
is, I can't vote on this, so I'm not going to give you either way, but
it's a
I
good
don't see
thing.
a problem with it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And just lastly, I would never take more than one piece of apparatus out of Vernon. So I wouldn't say, give me one from Pochuck, give me one from Highland Lakes, give me Vernon. It would only be one of your tankers from the entire town.
Thank you very much. I appreciate I understand it now.
Makes sense.
Are there any further questions?
No.
No, thank you for explaining that. It definitely makes sense.
Thank you,
very
Virgil.
much.
Does the council wish to act on this now by making a resolution?
There's a typo in this resolution. We just need to fix the
What's that?
therefore.
Where?
The next to last paragraph now, therefore.
Okay,
Oh, I see it. I'll fix that.
I have a resolution. A
Motion. I'll make a motion.
motion is made,
I'll second the motion.
22-160, seconded by Mr. Fury. Are there any questions or further questions or comments? If not,
No.
I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Due to my affiliation with the fire department, I must abstain from voting on this.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rome. I appreciate your taking the time to come here and explain it.
I'll see you later on, Marshall.
Right.
We now have a question which I'm sure is going to evoke some questions, comments, maybe hopefully not too strong feelings. Question of hybrid meetings. I've been asked by a number of people on the agenda for discussion. Simply here for that, just discussion, and to see perhaps if there's any public feedback on this and your thoughts on hybrid meetings. The floor is open to the council. Does anybody have any comments?
Council President, I would like to make a motion that Vernon Township conduct their meetings pre-COVID status, go back to pre-COVID status.
All right. I hadn't planned on it, but if the council is wishing to do that, basically, this was just a discussion area, but if you'd like to bring this forward as an area for a resolution,
Yes.
I think we can do that. Is there a second?
After the second, we can have discussion, right?
Absolutely.
I want to have discussion on this. I'll make a second. So we can have a
Seconded by
discussion.
Mrs. Bucieri. We have a motion on the floor to revert to our form of meetings prior to the COVID situation, essentially doing away with hybrid meetings. These will be person to person. Are there any comments on this?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment.
Certainly.
Well, first of all, I saw it on the agenda. I had no idea what it's about. I am not in favor of moving away from hybrid meetings. One of the reasons why is I think that the amount of public participation and the ability for the public to participate in the meetings has gone up, and it's a positive. So I don't see any reason why we want to get away from hybrid meetings. The reason why I'm not in attendance, because I've asked several times, just from the nature of the meetings and the tone of the meetings, that I asked for a sergeant at arms to be present at the back of the council meetings. And I've asked the council and I've asked the mayor, and that that request was never honored. So I think that, that was because, and I'm telling you, this is the reason why I do not appear in person. I'd be perfectly fine to come in person if a sergeant at arms was present. That's my personal opinion. But going back to the reason why I just said about hybrid meetings, I just don't think it's a good idea because, in a strange way, the pandemic, forced the township into these hybrid meetings. And the benefit is a lot more public participation. And I think that's a positive, good thing for the township. So that's my comments.
Can I ask a question? Sure. Mike, were you threatened?
No, there's been times in person when I was at meetings, I felt threatened by some of the comments made by people from the public, and it was an uncomfortable situation. And I would never want to see anybody get hurt or anything bad to happen. So they weren't directed at me. They're obviously directed at Mayor Burrell and Council Member Shortway. And I just think the tone that's the tone of the meetings. I mean, it's not the tone is not set by the mayor or the council. It's just the tone we see at the meetings. So that's why we requested that sergeant at arms. I just thought it would bring some level of civility to the meetings.
You are aware that the council president and the attorney have the ability to summon police at a moment's notice if necessary.
If I can add here,
Certainly.
in this, I've been trained, educated, and experienced this. A moment's notice, it will not work. You've had people enter that meeting. If I did a threat assessment on them, it's a threat. And again, I don't know what everybody else's experience is with assessing violence or dealing with mentally ill people in psychological distress or emotional disorders. I made a complaint to one police department because the police officer was putting up a picture of someone with a gun and made a smart comment about it. He eventually resigned from other charges. So if you want to do a threat assessment, you've had it there. And all we're asking is put a plainclothes officer even in the lobby. We've had issues in the lobby between even people attending the meetings. And a plainclothes officer, we're just trying to prevent something. You don't need a direct threat. But the threat assessment, if you did with some of these people, they warrant to have someone there to prevent. That's all this is about, is preventing. And they can be in plain clothes, out of sight, in the lobby where a lot of this has occurred. And that's all we're asking. And frankly, I like the hybrid for people that can't get about. And Mike was bringing that up. Say if it's inclement weather, we'll be able to make it. But say some of our senior citizens or somebody that's disabled or someone that doesn't drive, they get to watch. They get to, if they choose to, they become part of the meeting. I think it's a great service to the public.
Everything that we say and do here is recorded and handed out. There isn't anything that anybody misses that comes in this.
I think it's necessary for me to comment that my reason for not having police attendance is because I just don't believe a public meeting where we encourage dissent if necessary should be somehow that dissent couched by virtue of the appearance of a police officer, which might be, some people might consider intimidating. And certainly having the police officer in plain clothes would be even more intimidating because now the public might say they're being duped in the sense that the police officer doesn't even have the ability to wear a uniform, which in itself might be, some people might find a way of calming the situation down. But this has been my stance all along. I noticed that we have cameras in the back of this room, which we have here for court. And those cameras are going right now. Although there's no volume to it.
Why don't we change the ordinance?
Huh?
The ordinance calls for a sergeant of arms. You may put it there and it's a police officer. That's what our ordinance says.
All right, and just to follow up what Harry's saying, the decision could be made by the town council president or the mayor.
Yeah.
So
Right.
either person can make that decision.
I believe this is a council meeting. It's, I'm responsible for the conduct of the council meeting. And I would ask the council to abide by my thoughts on this. We've had a number of very hostile meetings and people may have raised their voices, but I believe we never lost control of a meeting. And necessary, we suspend or we recess for a period of time to allow some feelings to cool, but I just don't think it's necessary. However, one of the things we might want to consider, I'll ask the council, is I believe are there magnetometers for the court sessions, Mayor?
What now?
Magnetometers?
Metal detectors.
They want people.
Yeah, well,
They have actually have people coming in. They haven't been doing that
Okay,
because everything's.
I see. Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
I
Is there any thoughts? Yes.
Yeah, I do. I do have some thoughts. I do strongly support hybrid meetings because of the increased participation for our community, especially as other council members have pointed out. Community members that might not feel comfortable driving at night, those with young children, different schedules. I think it's a great opportunity to be able to log in, listen, participate if you choose. I believe most of the municipalities surrounding us have done away with Zoom and Zoom participation. I know the county commissioners have. I believe the boards of ed have also gone back to traditional meetings. I don't believe they're allowing participation through Zoom any longer. I think we're probably one of the few handful. So we would not be doing anything out of turn or unusual by going back to in-person meetings. I think the fact that we have two council members that don't come to meetings really limits participation between the five of us. I wish there was a way we could allow the public to participate through Zoom and call in for public comments while requiring council members to attend in person. We're elected officials. We've made a commitment to our community. Sometimes that commitment requires us to be in uncomfortable positions with adversarial community members, maybe addressing us in an angry manner. I've had it happen to me when I was in the school board. I'll probably have it happen to me at some point. I'm pretty new on the council, but I don't expect to be immune from it. But it's what we signed up for. I have never felt scared or threatened. I trust our police around the corner that if anything would happen, that they would be here shortly. However, I trust our community. I'm not afraid of our community. And I think having an armed police officer here, while I fully support our police, I was on the school board when we hired RPOs, retired police officers, so we would have armed security in each of our school buildings. I fully supported that school because of the history of violence in schools. I have no problem with that. I don't think we need an armed police officer here. I agree with Council President Rizzuto that could be interpreted as intimidation. I feel that open communication between government, citizenry is really important. And I am very torn with this. I do not want to limit our public from communicating with us through Zoom. I agree also that one of the good things from COVID was this opportunity for people to do that. It was something I think campaigned on. However, having two council members not participate fully, not be here in person, not being able to have that, I think it diminishes their impact too. And from their perspective, I think they're doing a disservice to themselves by not being here in person and participating fully. So quite honestly, I don't know what I would decide if we vote on this. It's
I have a question. Please explain how, well, I'm just gonna talk for myself, how am I not participating fully in these meetings? I really kind of resent the fact that you're saying, I'm coming to these meetings, I'm participating in meetings, I'm in discussions. And why are you saying that I'm not fully engaged in these meetings?
I didn't say you weren't fully engaged, Mike. I think it diminishes your ability to participate. It's not the same. I have participated in fully virtual meetings. I have participated in fully in-person meetings. I have participated in hybrid meetings like this. I've participated in all of them multiple times as a council member and on the school board. There is a difference. And even in my business world, through my professional life, hybrid, in-person, and fully virtual. I think probably anybody in this room would say nothing replaces face-to-face contact in any relationship, whether it's a personal relationship, whether it's a business relationship, whether it's community, elected officials, and the public. Nothing can replace actual face-to-face in the same room human interaction. And I'm not saying you're not participating or you're not interested or you don't appear engaged. So I don't mean that. I think it truly diminishes your ability to have that impact for both of you. And that's my personal opinion.
I think what has to be pointed out as well is that right now, the public only sees Mr. Lynch, Mrs. Bucieri, and myself. You're not able, the public is not able to see you. We can see you. They can hear you, but they can't see you. And I really question whether or not if the impact or the level of participation is the same for the three of us versus the two of you. When dealing with the public, when we're looking at the public and talking with them face-to-face, person-to-person, and you're looking at us and just listening to their voice. So it's a consideration that I'm asking you to make as we consider this issue and move along on it.
And there's a lot of times during the meeting that both Harry and Mike both go off screen.
Yes.
And then when a conversation picks back up, they come back online. And I don't know what's happening, but even if we were never in COVID restrictions for meetings, if you were going to take the option that's afforded to council members that you're allowed to call in twice, you have to remain on the phone through the meeting, through the whole meeting. Now, these, I don't know if it's a screensaver happening or what is happening, but there are lots of times during the meeting where Mike and Harry are not seen. And I'm wondering, is that just a technical thing, or is it because they are choosing not to be part of the meeting at that point? We are getting paid a stipend to be here.
And suppose all of us, council people, decided to participate as you do from a remote facility, and the public comes and speaks to voices coming down from the air. You know, I just question whether that is indeed wise. And certainly the other consideration that Mr. Lynch just brought up is, were Mr. Lynch and Mrs. Bucieri to leave the dais and walk outside the room, I believe I've been advised by counsel and also on my own checking that requires a recess. So every time two of you, which is basically 40% of the council, leave or allow the council, the screen to go dark, we should at that point declare some type of a recess until you return. I haven't done it because when your name has been called, immediately you come up. So quite possibly it could be a screensaver issue. But I think this is one of the issues that is also under consideration, or we have to, talk our way through. Anybody else?
So I know I've asked this a lot, so I'm gonna sound like a little kid that keeps asking the same question, but Josh, there's no way to allow 1 or 2 virtual meetings a year for an elected council member and require their attendance the rest of the time. Like in the past, Brian had said council members could call in twice a year.
So the meetings for this year have all been noticed as hybrid meetings pursuant to the procedures that the.
Can't hear you, Josh.
Oh, I'm sorry. The meetings for this year have already been noticed as hybrid meetings pursuant to the procedures enacted by the council. The council's free to enact any rules that it desires to enact with respect to how it conducts its meetings and how it allows people to participate, both council members and the public. There was, prior to the states of emergency issued by the governor, an ordinance that allowed people to participate remotely via telephone because it didn't exist before. Then the governor issued his COVID state of emergencies, and the remote meeting world became common in New Jersey because of the 6-foot distance. Now, recently this year, the governor repealed the health state of emergency, but he did not repeal the COVID state of emergency. The fact that the COVID state of emergency is in place allows hybrid meetings to still occur. But also, because the hybrid meetings allow people to participate more, the council can continue with the hybrid meetings in addition to the appearing in person. This is a long way of me saying that the council can ultimately regulate itself, how it conducts itself, what it requires of council members when they participate in meetings. But that's a decision for the council to make, not for me to make.
But unless I'm misunderstanding you, we have the ability then to put in some type of guidelines if we choose to continue with hybrid meetings, that the hybrid meetings are for citizens and not council
Yes,
members.
yes, you do.
Then that is something I would be in favor of, because then we would be able to continue to have the participation from citizens, but then have council members required to be here in person, or a combination of like 2 a year, You're saying-
Whatever
Okay.
and I will say this, no one has asked me to evaluate any proposals with respect to how council members are regulated with respect to hybrid meetings appearing via video conference or telephone conference. So, but I do believe you have that ability to do.
Legally. I have
Yes.
that. Then that would be my opinion. I would not want to take away the opportunity from our community, but I think as elected officials, we should be here in person, maybe with some guidelines and parameters as far as, like Brian had mentioned. I think you said twice a year, Brian.
Yes.
And I believe the school board did that at some point too, when they came back in person to their meetings. I think that's a compromise that allows for some flexibility. We all have schedules, we all work, we all have family. But it does kind of, and it also allows for that continued community participation. Public comments are later.
Does anyone wish to modify?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just real quick. Yeah, if we were to do this, what I would prefer is to draft a resolution and draft a resolution with whatever language you want in the resolution, and then we have the ability to vote for it at a later meeting. That's what
I completely agree.
I believe it has to be done by ordinance.
Ordinance, okay.
Has to be done by
No.
ordinance. All right, so
Yes.
that's
No, I completely agree with that, Mike, completely. It's something that we should discuss, and I would request that be on our next agenda.
Certainly.
yeah, it has to be an ordinance, Josh.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was a resolution.
Mr.
That's
Lynch, are
fine.
you willing to withdraw the resolution in favor of having this looked over by our attorney and placed as an ordinance?
In the spirit of cooperation, I rescind the motion I made to incorporate all of the things that the council members would like to see in the ordinance.
I appreciate that, Brian.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Is Is there any other comments? So basically what we're going to do is we're going to have our attorney look at this, put it in the form of an ordinance for participation, as we have discussed with the council members participating in person. And having participation by members of the audience in person as well.
And Zoom, well, and Zoom.
And at the same time,
Yeah, and that was my question to Josh, to be able to continue the Zoom for the community.
So you're going to allow the community to view and participate and make public comment via Zoom. Basically allow the public to attend virtually while council members have to be here in person.
Exactly.
maybe it's a little bit of the libertarian coming in, but does a council person forego certain rights simply by becoming a council person, and then a resident of the community indeed has more rights than the council person in that regard?
I think I'll answer the question this way. The council regulates how it conducts its, and what it finds is appropriate or not appropriate. I don't think we're treading on any constitutional rights here.
Okey-doke.
I don't know. When I worked for UPS, they had a little bit of a caveat working there. They said, if you don't come in, you don't get paid.
Yeah. Okay. I think there's a guy by the name of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. That was a good discussion.
Yes, it was. Moving along, we have a letter from Mr. John Flora to the mayor and council regarding elections of our Board of Education. As a little background, our Board of Education previously was a board that had its own special election in April, where its budget was voted on by the community, separate from any other budget. And the election of Board of Education members was done also at that time as well. I guess I forgot the time, maybe 10 years ago.
At least, yeah.
At least 10 years ago, Governor Christie decided to offer the community the opportunity to have board members elected in the November election, and removing the ability of the community to vote on its school budget, which represents approximately, in our case, about 70% of our total budget expenditures. And the Board of Education members would also be voted on at that time as well. It was a separate election. Indeed, there would be a separate cost for that. However, based upon what it was felt at the time by many people, that the amount of money that could be saved because the community would have the ability to reject the budget, thereby having the Board of Education have to reduce that budget and going back to the county superintendent and resubmitting it there, the amount of money that would have been saved would have been substantially more than the cost of a separate election. Well, the board, I guess the Board of Education at that time chose not to maintain the special election in April, but voted to have their elections for board members take place in November and hold their increase in budget growth to 2% per year. However, there were certain caveats in the fact that the cost of healthcare was exempt. I'm sorry, salaries were exempt, I believe, and also the fact that all boards had the opportunity to revisit cap banks if they needed more money, which basically was an increase in the amount of money that was available to them in excess of 2%. So this is just a basic overview, but Mr. Flora sent this to us and pointed out that there are 3 ways to move the board elections from November back to April. One is the municipality can move the election by placing it on the ballot by virtue of an ordinance 80 days prior to the next election. The school board can move the election by doing the same thing 60 days prior to the school board. And this, in effect, gives the school board the final word, or a petition of 15% of the vote of the total of the last presidential election signed by registered voters. So 15% of the registered voters of the last presidential election can elect by initiative and referendum to place it on the ballot. I thought that it was only right that the council place this on the floor for discussion and see what we would like to do. I know we have Mrs. Bucieri, who's our liaison to the Board of Education. Perhaps she can give us her thoughts and then we can begin our discussion.
Yes, I was on the school board when actually a community member, I think a couple community members did approach the school board and asked if they would consider doing option 2, school board choosing to move the election. We did discuss it. It was, our BA expressed that it would probably be, I want to say between $10,000 and $15,000 to have that election, the cost of the election in April. There really wasn't much interest from the board to do that. And the cost, I think, was prohibitive. We were facing pretty large cuts from the state at that point, so it did not get much traction. I would like to, I guess, to get some more information to find out if the estimate of 15,000 is accurate. I don't know if that's something Marcy could help us with and find out what's
Probably accurate.
probably accurate.
I'm getting the bills right now for the primary.
Mhm. And that seems
I would
about
say
it.
probably about 15.
About 15,000. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. So that was accurate information. I did just, I spoke to the BOE president and I just let her know that this was going to be a discussion item that we were talking about. And she was, fine with hearing that we were discussing it and open to discussing it too with us if we have a subcommittee meeting. She was open to having that discussion. Didn't indicate if she supported or was opposed, but definitely we had a good conversation about talking about it.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment?
I had a question for Natalie. Maybe you can answer the question, Natalie.
Mhm.
The cost of the election, the school board election is paid for by the Board of Ed, or is it the township?
I don't know. When we were on the Board of Ed, we were talking about it as if it would come from the Board of Ed's budget.
I believe it.
And that, that was a consideration. I mean, all of it comes from the same taxpayer. So I think of it as a whole in that way. I mean, even if it doesn't come from the municipality's budget, it's still going to come from the same taxpayer. So.
No,
But
I understand. I'd like to get that answer to that question.
Okay.
Who pays for the
Marcy
election?
offhand? If the school board pays for that or?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
Right. So we'll have to find that out.
The other question, Pat, is a follow-up on what you said. what you're saying is the May or April, May elections help to elect people to give them an opportunity to participate in their budget process, which is about June or July of every year. Is that
The
what
school
you're,
board budget starts in July, so they vote on the budget in April. April is when the election would be.
so what's the difference if they get voted in May or November?
Because they have to turn it into the state at a certain time. There are state requirements for the budget, so it has to be approved and then submitted to the state. So the election has to happen in April.
There's not a problem with when they're running, because heretofore board members were elected in April. And
Right.
the budget was approved in April, two separate situations. And at that time, generally board members or prospective board members, chose to examine the budget, and either they favored it, look to find some areas that they might make some improvements on or reductions on. But the big change was the fact that the community had the right to vote on the budget itself, not have it approved by a 9-member board, 5 of a 9-member board. I mean, I don't believe they require a supermajority like we do on certain things. So
But isn't it more advantageous if they're elected in November and then gives them, a few months to get used to the process and then vote on the budget in April?
The new board members wouldn't be voting on the budget. They're just running for election. So the 9 members already voted and approved that budget, and then they send it to the voters. They worked on it. They started working on it in February. They send it to the voters in April. The voters vote either up or down. And then, but at that same time, every year there's 3 board members up. It's a 9-member board. So every year there's 3 members up. So that at that same time, 3 new members would come on, but they probably wouldn't, they would take their seats in May then? Because they don't wait till January. I
that's
think-
right. Yeah, they take their seats.
They would, because when it first changed, they had members that had like half years and they had to stagger it. So it would change their terms then. Their terms
Well,
would
that's
go
it. The terms become.
May, yeah.
Yeah.
But so the new members are not voting on anything. They would have really a full year, which is actually better because when your election's in November as a school board member, you don't get sworn in until January, and February, you hit the ground running and you're doing a budget already. So if you get elected the same time the budget gets passed, right, in May, you've got a full year to see how that school works and get a lot of training in before you start working on the budget in February.
Oh, so that's the advantage
Yeah, that's,
of
yeah.
having an election in May.
Yeah, because then the board member has from May till January to get a lot under their belt and really understand it, and then the budget hits.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, I think that we would be doing a service to the people on the Board of Education, because when we have the general election in November, a lot of emphasis is put on the council and a lot of emphasis is put on the congressman and the governor and everything else. And Board of Education members have their pictures in the paper and have signs up. And I think that the Board of Education election gets lost in the sauce on election day.
Yeah.
And I think that we're not doing a service to the community, letting the people know who is running and what they stand for. Quite honestly, I always thought it was a foolish thing that the governor did by allowing the Board of Educations to vote, to make a decision not to vote on a budget.
Well, that's probably.
And I don't understand why you would increase taxes if you don't need to.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And quite honestly, this town worked hard. The mayor, Pat, you, me, and the mayor, and I'm sure other council members spoke, dropped the tax base down to 0 here. And it's all for naught because I'm hearing that everybody's taxes went up and it's because of the school board. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm in favor of moving the election, but I want it done right. And
I agree.
and I'm gonna count on Natalie's counsel for what she believes here.
Let me see if we can, if I can reach out to our liaison committee and maybe within the next week, set up a time to talk to the
And just
committee.
another comment, Natalie, if you could, I'd like to get the Board of Ed's official position on it. Like the Board of
Yeah.
Ed, the actual
Mhm.
board,
Yeah,
everybody, some kind of buy-in in writing, what they, I would be comfortable with making a decision if they gave us their input.
yeah, no, I think it's definitely something we need to have a conversation about with them. We have a little bit of time. I'll see if we can get a meeting on in the next, maybe early next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shortway, any comment?
No comment, other than I agree. I want to know the Board of Ed's position.
I'm sorry?
I want to know the Board of Ed's position.
Okay, thank you. Moving along. All council members have received a copy of the bills list. Are there any questions on it?
I have no questions.
I have no questions either, Council President.
Me neither.
I do. Check number 026, John T. Fleming. There are 3 payments to DPW in the amount of $18,408. I'm just curious as to what that were, what that's for. I believe I sent you an email.
Did you receive my answer?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I apologize.
So I didn't.
I'm back to you.
Not saying you didn't send it. I just didn't get a chance.
Would you like Ed, since he happens to be here, to respond back to it?
Like,
Because I had to call him, they had me.
okay,
Oh,
Had the correct answer.
that was-
So let's him take the credit.
good enough.
Donnell is also on Zoom.
Okay to know.
Oh, hi, Danelle. How are you?
Hello, Donnell.
How are you?
Ed, if you're going to speak, would you come up, please?
Okay, welcome. The check for that amount for Fleming is for guardrail repair that we had to make. So there was 3 different spots that we had to repair. The canister was 1, 2, 1 breakneck. And we went through state contracts.
Okay.
To get the figures, and I had to get them done.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And everybody thanks you.
Right.
For the people that are walking up in Highland Lakes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There's no other questions? Moving along. Mr. Mayor, may we have your comments, please?
Yes. Mr. Council President, other members of the council and members of the public. Since the council's June 13 council meeting, I've had repeated contacts from residents expressing their great surprise, expressing their strong disagreement, and expressing their outright dismay at how resolution number 22-162 was suddenly introduced and without notification by the current leader of the council, and then second and approved by the current leader of the council plus 2 other council members.
Mr. Mayor, may I interrupt you for a second?
I would prefer to finish my statement.
Mayor, just a question.
I would prefer to finish my statement. Okay. The public expressed the feeling that their strong disagreement was made even more intense by the fact that all of this occurred without the normal and customary advance notification to the public that this resolution would be presented and voted on at the meeting. And without any previous discussion with, without any previous knowledge of, and without any respect for the other longest serving council members on the council. This was a resolution in which the current leader of the council took the highly extraordinary and public insensitive action of having just 3 people in our entire town of almost 25,000 people to make a decision to memorialize a name for a significant municipality facility. That facility being our soon to be established Town Center Park and Pump Track. I consider the action to have been especially disrespectful of former mayor and former councilmember President Harry Shortway. I say that because he is the one individual who has worked longer and harder on this Town Center Park and Pump Track project than any other person who is currently serving in this governing body. In fact, some members of the council have informed me that they have also received the same kind of expressions of surprise, strong disagreement, and outrage dismay from members of the public. In comments from the public to me, most expressed the feeling and belief that the way in which the current leader of the council introduced and had this resolution seconded and approved, number one, reflected a lack of the type of transparency that the current leader of the council has repeatedly accused the office of the mayor and other council members of. Most expressed a very strong feeling that the current leader of the council hid this resolution from the public and purposely prevented any public comment by not putting this resolution on the meeting agenda that's published in advance of every council meeting. And number two, it reflected a great degree of arrogance and disrespect for the public by thinking that just 3 people in our entire town had the knowledge, had the wisdom, and had the authority to memorialize a name for a significant municipal facility without any input from the public. Many members of the public pointed out to me that they found it, quite frankly, ironic and even laughable that the group of council members who from the day that they were sworn in made it no secret that they strongly opposed the municipality's Town Center Pump Track effort. And during their entire period on this current council, have spent the majority of their time, their energy, and their efforts on trying to kill the Town Center Pump Track. And now they are rushing to the front of the enthusiasm line to not just embrace the Town Center
Mr.
Pump
Mayor,
Track.
I'm asking you to please suspend comment because let's stipulate one thing. You do not respect my point of view on this, and I have no.
Let me just, this is a time, let me just say, let me just say it's highly unusual for the council president.
Yes, it is.
Not to allow the mayor to give comments in this form of government. And just because of the fact that you don't like what and just because of the fact, just because of the fact that you don't like what I'm saying, you don't have the right to bully anybody, and you're not going to bully me. When we come back, I'll finish my comments.
I think perhaps you might want to rethink that.
No, no, I don't. Please come back so that I can finish them, because I want you to hear them.
Mayor, I think you should finish. Do we have to?
I will finish them. I don't know if he called for an official recess or not, but I'm planning to finish them.
I have a question for the attorney. Don't we need a motion, a second, and a vote to go in recess?
President recessed the meeting. I don't recall there being a motion, but there's no longer a quorum here.
So the meeting's over for the night.
Meeting's over till it starts back up again.
Well, my comment is this is absolutely ridiculous. That the mayor was interrupted. I want to go on record. That's ridiculous that the mayor was interrupted in the middle of his comments. And he was not allowed to finish his comments, and then the council members walked off the dais. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, Mr. Fury. It's ridiculous when you leave the screen blank. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Listen,
now, the point that I was making
let's get
here,
a sense of decorum.
No,
Wait,
the
don't
point
interrupt
that
me.
I was making.
Don't interrupt
The
me.
mayor makes great effort in pointing out that this was brought up from the floor. And yet, I believe, Mr. Lynch, you have a comment on that?
Are you going to call a quest?
Quite,
Are
And
you gonna call the council president too?
Listen, can we have a point of decorum here? Can we run this
the point of
meeting?
decorum is I stipulate that all of what what the mayor's saying is true. I don't really think that the public needs to hear that. They probably want to know where we stand on road improvement. They probably want to know what the schedule is on starting discussions for perhaps this coming year's budget. Where we stand on handling the completion of some of the other projects in the community.
That's nice, but these are the mayor's comments.
This is a continual
Whatever.
diatribe against me and or other members of this council. We've gone through basically 6 months, and out of that time, it's exactly the same thing.
Please let him
So
finish
if the
his
mayor's going to
comments.
continue to do this, I would ask him to simply suspend and think about pointing up something else.
Please let him finish his comments.
I'd like to proceed with my comments.
No.
It's highly unusual for the council president to be so dictatorial
I'm not being.
and really so afraid.
You're being very disrespectful.
And so, what are you afraid of? You afraid to hear my comments?
On the contrary.
Well, let me finish them. Let me finish my comments. I'll continue now. According to the resolution that was written by the current leader of the council, the name that he wants to put on our town pump track somehow relates to, quote, the horror and loss of life brought on by the influence of opiates and addictive substances, end quote, the terrible anguish of feeling unloved that's felt by those not accepted and have chosen to end their lives. I don't really know what all of that's about. However, I do know that we do not want the name of our town center pump track memorialized with these negative words. In response to public requests that I do what I can to convince the council not to go through with this ill-advised name and action, I communicated with the full council and had separate personal discussions with 4 council members, asking them to reconsider and to withdraw resolution number 22-126. These discussions included a personal one-on-one meeting at my request with the current leader of the council, in which I proposed that the mayor and the council agree to simply identify the new park with the sign that reads Town Center Park and Pump Track, just as the town now identifies one of our other parks as simply Maple Grange Park. I explained to the current leader of the council that taking this approach would allow future governing bodies to formally name and or dedicate this facility in honor of some person or some cause that the entire town would deem worthy of such an honor. Not only did the current leader of the council reject my attempt at this compromise, but he blatantly did so. His actions have left me no choice but to use the authority granted me as mayor by the state of New Jersey to declare resolution number 22-162 as being inappropriate and illegal and therefore void. I hereby declare resolution number 22-162 to be void because there's no place in the legal statute that direct our form of government where the council is given the unilateral specific authority to perform the administrative function of exclusively naming any municipal facility. In fact, the legal statutes that direct our form of government,
Excuse me, Mayor.
unless a
I
statute
just have a
specifically,
question about that statute. Did you seek legal counsel from our township attorney?
yes, I did.
Is that correct, Josh?
With respect to,
That the resolution was illegal and that we don't have the authority to name a park? The council doesn't have the authority? I think that's what you said, Mayor. I just wanted to ask that question now. So,
Let me just expound on that.
no, I want to have the lawyer answer that. Is
Um,
that true, Josh?
the mayor and I had conversations about naming the park. The council president and I had conversations about naming the park.
Yes.
I do not review the mayor's comments before he gives them. We had no conversation about his comments today.
So you did not advise him that that resolution was illegal that we had at our last meeting?
Not going to disclose private conversations I had with the mayor or with the council president.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
So,
Well, in fact, the legal statutes that direct our form of government say specifically that unless a statute specifically assigns an administrative or an executive function to the council, then that administrative or executive function shall automatically be exercised exclusively by the mayor. In just 6 short months, under the current leadership of the council, this council has developed a reputation for repeatedly overstepping its legal authority. For those of you who may think that this statement does not reflect reality, I'll offer you the following 3 examples. Example 1, the majority of this council overstepped its legal authority when it passed ordinance number 22-04, which was aimed at forcing me as mayor to break a legal binding contract to construct the town center walking and biking trail. But I refused to yield to their demand because to do so would have cost the taxpayers thousands of dollars in legal fees. Example number 2, the majority of this council overstepped its legal authority again when it passed resolution number 22-58, which was aimed at forcing me as mayor to require the Vernon taxpayer to spend unnecessary tax dollars to pay for a second municipal attorney to be used exclusively by the council. This would be an attorney that's not needed or required by law, but again, I refused to yield to their demand. And example number 3, at the June 13 council member, the majority of the council overstepped its legal authority again when it passed resolution 22-162. This resolution, in my view, reflected their arrogance and their disrespect for the public by having just 3 people in our entire town of almost 25,000 people to memorialize a name for a significant municipal facility without any input from the public. And I will one more time refuse to yield to their demand. I will therefore move forward with my plan to not formally name this new facility, but instead to simply identify this facility with a sign that reads Town Center Park and Pump Track, just as the town identifies one of its other parks as simply Maple Grange Park. This approach will allow future governing bodies to formally name and or dedicate this facility in honor of some person or some cause that the entire town, not just 2 or 3 people, would deem worthy of such an honor. I close my comments by again asking the current leader of the council, what is the urgent need to rush into memorializing a name for the new town center park and pump track? This highly extraordinary and public incentive action on the part of just 3 council members makes no sense to me, and it makes no sense to most of the Vernon residents. Neither the mayor nor the council should simply slap a name on a new facility without any major input from the public. We should lead with our common sense and not with our egos. Thank you. Those end my comments, Mr. Council President.
I have something.
Please.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
You termed that resolution was illegal?
Yes.
Okay, has that ever happened before? Where you had an illegal resolution when you were mayor?
Not to my knowledge.
I'll refresh your memory then, just so you know. June of 2020.
Yeah.
A resolution was presented that wasn't written up. It was presented in verbiage, in verbal to the council. Didn't even have a resolution number to it or associated with it. And it wasn't written up until just before the meeting because it wasn't on the agenda either. Did you express the same outrage then as you do now?
It wasn't the fact that the resolution.
That was for spending money.
Wait a minute, let me ask you a question. That is not what made the resolution illegal. What made the resolution illegal? And I will give you the site in the legislation. The legislation says this, for any administrative function, and this is the administrative function, name it a park. Any administrative function that's not specifically listed in the legislation under council responsibility. The legislation lists specific responsibilities for the mayor, specific responsibilities for the council. And it goes on to say that if in fact there is not, an item is not specifically listed under the council responsibility, that administrative responsibility automatically falls to the mayor. And that's what made it illegal, because it's an administrative function that you didn't have authority to do. Not in terms of how you brought it up as an issue that has to be dealt with the public.
As you're well aware,
Yep,
we live in a representative government.
absolutely.
And just because a majority won in a representative government doesn't make it illegal.
Well, no,
Just
what,
because a majority won the vote doesn't
no,
make it
no,
illegal.
no, what makes this illegal is the fact that you had no legal authority to do it
Okay.
under the legislation. That's what.
We were advised by council that we had the legal authority.
We have the right as council, without going to you, to buy and sell property. It also allows us to name streets and roads. Now, you tell me the difference between naming a street and a road and naming a park.
Well,
Your lack of comment to me, your lack of cooperation, your lack of talking to me, and it's happened more than once, has created this type of a problem. I came to you and I spoke to you because I was advised that you had been receiving requests to name that park after individuals, just like I had been receiving. Now, before I can name a park or anything after an individual, I'm going to have to look at that real long, because let me tell you something. As many people that might want to do it, there are probably an equal number that don't. But I'll tell you, if I'm going to name it after an individual, there are individuals who have passed, who have done an awful lot for this township, that I would name it in place of. I need only to refer to Mr. Harold McPeak, a 71-year-old member of the fire department. Now, my decision to have that park named after a group or memorializing a group was given some long and painful thinking. And I discussed this with you. And you gave me your reasoning why you felt it was wrong. But you had also told me that prior to that, and you asked me, why did I want to do it so suddenly? And I told you because people were coming to you and meeting with you and then telling me that you were going to be making a decision in that regard so as to name it after an individual. And rather than place that issue before the public and cause a problem to you, I moved that we bring it up from the floor. Excuse me, Mayor, I'm not.
No, you and I
here.
No.
Not here to have
You and I never had a conversation about this.
Oh, no.
Until you pulled that act the other night. And let me just tell you, first of all, I never intended to name the park after anybody. Never intended. My point here is that the park should be identified and not named. And let me tell you, Mr. Rizzolo, all this stuff about calling you or what have you, I'm not kissing your ring. You need to understand that.
Listen,
You need to accept the fact that I'm there, and you are not. You accept that fact, really? But I'll tell you what, well, let me just say, I'm not going anywhere. As I've said tonight, I will not, that resolution is illegal. I will not act on it. I'm not out of order. I will not act on it.
You're out of order.
The park will be named the Vernon Township Park and Pump Track.
Fine.
That's what.
You think so? Okay, you're out of order. Can we move on, please?
Please.
Consent agenda? I'm sorry, minutes for a meeting of June 27th.
Comments for agenda
Oh, I'm
items.
sorry.
I'll make a motion. We open the floor to public comments.
I'll second
For
it.
agenda items only.
Yes.
Agenda items only.
Motion is made to open the floor for agenda items.
I second it.
Motion made and second. Roll call, please.
Sure. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Anybody wishing to come before the council? Comment?
Please just let us know which agenda item you're going to be addressing.
We're bringing up for the mayor's comments on the naming of the pump track. My name is Jonathan Hanson. You guys have probably recognized me from the previous meeting. I'm here to support behind keeping, just identifying the track. I do want the name of it. Also, I'm speaking on behalf of, I would say, of the cycling community in Vernon. I've had a lot of phone calls since that evening that was here from all types of cycling people in this community concerned about the name of the pump track. I know you guys were concerned about an individual name that you were speaking of most likely Jason Rinker.
Actually, his name didn't come up for us. We had no intention of talking about that. That was all brought about by another citizen.
So either way, I do stand behind for the mayor's decision of just identifying, and let's not put a name onto it at this moment. And let's just let things happen. And as there is plenty of time in the future to figure out a true name for it, but identifying the track would be ideal instead of advertising what could be a sensitive subject and pointing out, let's say, some flaws in our town of what could be from opiate overdose, especially seeing I have very personal connections with opiate overdose. So, I mean, overdoses, along with, to speak on another subject, the hybrid meetings, I would really hope to continue, as I wasn't able to pursue to be here for last week's meeting. I had to work on a customer's bike till late in the evening because they had a big race the following day. And I work in the bicycle industry and want to know what's going on with the pump track as we're coming to a near end. So if hybrid meetings can continue to happen, that would be awesome, at least for the public. And that's what I just have to say. So thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Hi, Alexis Franklin. Hi guys, first I'd like to make a comment on the hybrid meetings. First, I would like to say that I respect all of you that are showing up in person. I'm recently a Rutgers alumni graduate, and through my university, there's a lot of accommodations. So, you know, we do what we can, but I work with individuals with disabilities, specifically autism. I have a lot of family members that are parents that can't make it to meetings because they have kids. So I really think it would be great if you could keep it open to the public. And I do support the fact having council members here. I also think it could potentially change the hostile environment if individuals like us are able to view virtually. You may have someone that makes them feel a little uncomfortable actually log in virtually. So I know they were talking about a harm maybe possibly happening, so that might actually benefit having us virtual, having the option. But having it accommodate to the public would be amazing. I would also like to make a comment on the mayor's decision to change the name of the pump track. I strongly support that. I do find it very troubling that the way that you guys were interacting and arguing with each other and cutting each other off. I think it reflects a lot in the council, and I hope that you guys can find middle ground here because it's very important and it also, the public sees this. So I hope that you guys can find a way to communicate better. Thank you.
We'll try.
Anyone else? Yes.
My name is Carol Zafria, and I'm
Sorry?
not Carol Zafria, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous about doing this after seeing the outburst.
Don't worry.
Fine, putting it right on the table there.
You do this 4 times a week.
I know,
We're from Jersey. Everybody does it. So it's okay.
So I'm a little nervous about this anyway. So I am a Vernon resident for 5 years. Like I said, my name is Carol Zafria. I'm the owner. You might have seen my truck around, Move For You ice cream truck. We've been, yeah, we're not on the agenda.
There is a spot at the end of the meeting for you to come up. You'll even have more time
Oh, okay.
than you have now. You'll have 5 minutes to.
Sit down.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyone else? Do we have anybody in the skybox?
Yes, Ann Larson.
Mrs. Larson?
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I have to say in reference to the in-person by the council members, it really is a good idea. And it made me think after the conversation last meeting, what would happen in the event someone had, for example, a long hospitalization? I mean, maybe is there a way to hire or to elect some alternates so that if people don't attend, that someone in fact could vote in their place? Because like you said, the children, we found out the hard way that they were not getting the full learning experience with the Zoom classes. And the same thing is true with this. So I just like to express my support that the council members appear in person. And as far as a police officer goes there, I mean, gosh, you know, you're sending such a terrible signal. I don't know that a former policeman is so afraid of the public. I got a hard time with that. So I have to say thank you for not capitulating to that. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Peg Stassi.
Mr. Stassi? Mr. Stassi? Are you muted? Can we move on?
She's not muted now.
Now she's gone. Tom McClackery.
Mr. McClackery?
He's muted.
Mr. McClackery?
No.
Can we move on?
Mr. McClackery. He's not muted anymore. Jesse Palladini.
Mrs. Palladini?
Yes, good evening. I just want to go back to discussing the FW Webb situation. I was on the Vernon Land Use Board for nearly 10 years. And for 20 years prior to that, I studied municipal land use laws. And I've got to tell you that I'm shocked and flabbergasted at what happened tonight and what seems to be yet a new trend. I don't know why you are allowing applications to be put on the council agenda now and the council prejudging these applications before they go to the land use board, particularly if a variance is needed, which I thought I heard tonight, there would be a variance. I'm sure those of you who have sat on the land use board know that as council members, you have to recuse yourselves from any applications that require variances. And yet you sat there tonight and discussed it. Mr. Thomas asked you to direct Ms. Caldwell to get this through the land use board. Those were her words. I wrote them down. How does the council have the authority to do that? And particularly when they are not supposed to participate on applications requiring variances. Now, there are some unusual things about this whole discussion. We learned tonight, as we always knew, that it's in the light industrial zone. What happened to the Bobcat that was there? that would preclude any development there whatsoever. Mike, you said nothing could be developed there, remember? So why is he allowed to do this expansion? And let me stop right here and say, I am not opposed to the application or the expansion. I think it's a good thing. But there were comments that were made that there's a great topographical difference between Route 94 and Black Creek Drive. Significant drop. What about stormwater improvements, paving? Does FW Webb have an easement to use that road? Again, I have no issue with the application, but you are prejudging it and supporting it and endorsing it, and you are sidestepping the land use board, particularly when there is a variance required. And I heard the words, you could start right away, motion to authorize her to do the work. I've never seen this done in 30 years, that a planner gets up and says, authorize me to do this work and give your approval for this application prior to it going before the land use board. And one last statement. I'm
Thank
shocked
you.
by, last statement, I am shocked by, we are pretty certain we own the road. On what basis? Not on the documentation that I requested and not on what Mayor Burrell stated at a recent meeting. That's
Thank
it.
you.
Mr. McClackery?
Mr. McClackery?
I have Sean Mazar.
Mr. Mazur?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I believe the virtual meeting should continue. I don't know if anyone's paying attention to the news, but there's a recent strain of COVID that they're not quite sure about. So I don't think it's over like we all hoped it to be. And an additional comment, Jesse was right on the money with that variance and the planner, and what transpired tonight was ridiculous. Thank you.
Say Stephanie DeBriza.
Ms. DeBrienza?
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good, Stephanie DeBrienza, Glenwood. I had a question. Well, let me say, as far as the hybrid meetings go, I think continuing them is definitely the way to go, because I would miss a lot, I'm sure, as everyone does, because of work or family commitments. Let's see. The Volkner issue with the property. Is there an update on that? Did anything happen with the $10,000?
That's still under investigation.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to say that I do support the hybrid. I absolutely think that anyone that was elected by this town to be on this town council, and because it is such an important job, I think Mr. Fury and Mr. Shortway need to attend. And you put the guy in there with the gun because you feel you need to be protected, and all you're doing is splitting this community yet again. Okay, it's like a war zone. This council tonight was a disgrace. The mayor, you shouldn't even be there. You had nothing. You just hear the same thing over and over and over. We're wasting our time. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Good night.
Thank you.
Craig DeStassi.
Ms. DeStassi?
Hi. Hi. Sorry, I don't know why you're not responding to Tom had a problem too. There's something in the system. But anyway, thanks for acknowledging me. Peg DeStassi, Glenwood. I wanted to talk about the Webb presentation. You know, the public couldn't see anything that they were discussing. And I really think it should have been a PowerPoint presentation. In addition, I also agree with the two other people who said this, that this is a land use board issue and it should have gone there first. I don't understand why it was presented to you first. It seems to be out of order. Now, as far as the hybrid meetings, I'm in favor of continuing them, as Natalie said, for public. All council members should be present on the floor. You were voted into a position, meet your responsibilities. Now, if you feel that insecure, hire your own security guard. Don't put the bill on the township. You've got a police department that's 100 yards away. I don't think it'll take too much time to get up those stairs. And I want to thank Natalie and Brian for bringing this issue up. Now, I am in favor of the April budget for voting on the school board. I think it's a good idea. I think it should, as Brian said, it does get lost in our election process. And I think it should be given its due importance by having its own election where people can pay attention to their issues and not group them all together. As far as the mayor, I'm going to save my 5 minutes to the end, but I do have one question as to, it seems that the attorney is giving out two different advices, one to the mayor and one to the council. Now, how is that and why is that? Shouldn't it be a unified discussion between the council and the mayor instead of two different entities walking away with two different opinions? I question that entire statement. How could two different entities have two different understandings of the law? Okay, thank you. And I'll finish later.
Thank you. Or anyone else?
I have Tom McClackery, but
Mr. McClackery?
he's having a problem.
Nope. Anyone from floor? Seeing no one coming forward, I'll ask for a motion to close the
I'll make that motion, Council.
motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Consent, the minutes. All members have the minutes of our regular meeting of the 27th. I have a motion. Those minutes from the.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it, Pat.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch, seconded by Mr. Fury. Any corrections, questions, or comments on them? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Consent agenda.
Do you want to do the executive session?
We have the executive-
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Yes. All members have copies of the minutes of the executive session of February 27th. May I have a motion to place those minutes on the floor?
Make that motion.
Motion is made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Are there any corrections? No?
What date was that, Pat?
The 27th.
27th.
Of June.
Yes.
I thought you said February. Sorry. I'm fine.
All right, nobody? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And now we will go to the
Consent agenda.
consent agenda, right?
You did the first one.
We did the first one, right? So we'll move to resolution 22-175, refund overpayment, block 530, lot 137, Mayor Franco. Resolution 22-176, refund overpayment, block 602, in lot 4, Wells Fargo Real Estate Services. Resolution 22-177, refund payment, block 527, lot 217, Patrick Sandak. Resolution 22-178, refund overpayment, block 527, lot 217, John Doremus. Resolution 22-179, refund for lot for tax court judgment. Resolution 22-180, refund for tax court judgment. Resolution 22-181, refund for tax court judgment. Resolution 22-182, resolution authorizing emergency procedure for fuel for daily operations of the Township of Vernon. Resolution 22-183, authorizing contract with certain approved educational services. Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Contract Vendor Cherry Valley Tractor Sales for a Toro TX 1000 Y-Track Model 222-328 through ESCNJ Contract 18/19-25. Resolution 22-184, renewal of pocket license for Vernon Lodge, JD Vernon Lodge and Inn LLC, requiring special ruling in the Township of Vernon for the 20-21-22 licensing term. Resolution 22-185, approval to submit a grant application and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for Sand Hill Road Improvement Project. Resolution 22-186, resolution authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $1,226,000 in bond anticipation notes of the Township of Vernon in the County of Sussex, New Jersey. Resolution 22-187, resolution authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $3,789,000 bond anticipation notes of the Township of Vernon in the County of Sussex, New Jersey. May I have a motion to place these items on the
Can we
floor?
pull one out?
Certainly.
22-184.
22-184 is removed. Is there any other to be removed? Would like? If not, may I
No.
have a motion to have the resolutions as listed, with the exception of resolution 22-184?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury.
I have a question.
Certainly.
Donnell.
Mute myself. I gotta unmute myself, sorry.
How are you tonight?
Good, thanks.
The bond anticipation note for $1,226,000. And what is that for?
That 1.2 million is actually for, from ordinance 11-23. That is for monies that we had to take out for some, of the MUA items back in 2011.
Doesn't it also include a fire truck?
The 1.2, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the fire truck is the fire truck, all the apparatus, that's the 187.
Okay, I have to.
We have to put them separately. So the 1.2 million is a taxable note because of the type of note that it was at the time and the way the ordinance was passed. The 187 is non-taxable.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Roll call vote, please.
Sure. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes, except for resolution 22-187, which I'm precluded to voting for because I'm a firefighter.
okay. Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We have resolution 22-184. May I have a motion to have this placed on the floor for consideration?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri, seconded by Mr. Lynch. Comments on that?
I just
Questions?
had some questions. I know this subject has come up a lot about liquor licenses that aren't used. So I just wanted maybe a little explanation. I don't know if Josh, you can do that. It looks like this was voted on to be rescinded, but now we're undoing that. So I've heard from community members, these licenses are sitting and not being used and we should do something about them. We should sell them and have another business use them. I know, but this is so I kind of wanted to bring this out in public and have this conversation. And while we might feel, would be nice if someone had the opportunity to have a license and start a restaurant or some type of business. What are,
Let me just explain why
how are we bound?
why this is on for
Okay.
approval. Because if you notice, it's the 2021 to 2022 license.
Going back in
term.
time.
Yes. So what happened was they were approved for their 2021 to 2022 license in the past. But because I didn't know that they had to advertise a special ruling, their 1218 special ruling, we had to rescind the 2021, 2022 license, which we did at the last meeting. And then they advertised it like they were supposed to do. So now we can approve that.
Improve it. Okay.
As far as the pocket license for this establishment, and I believe we have 3 in pocket licenses. They are trying very hard to sell their business and their license. Unfortunately, somehow their liquor license is attached, deeded to the facility. So their problem is that because of the state of the building, they cannot sell it. And because they cannot sell that, they cannot sell the liquor license. And they are trying very hard. I've been in contact with their owners, the Scullys, since I started here. And I mean, they would love to sell the liquor license and have somebody else use it. They are trying very hard. As far as the other 2 businesses that are in pocket, that, I don't know.
But the council doesn't have the ability to force somebody to sell their liquor license. And I knew that, and I just wanted to kind of, it's been floated around. I've been, people have commented to me, and I'm sure other council members have seen it. So I just wanted to take that opportunity to have that conversation.
If it's in pocket and if they get a special ruling there, which is a 1239 to keep it in pocket, if you don't approve it, then they can't use that license, and they can't even sell it in that state.
Right.
It has to be current and it has to be up to date. So, if you think that you not approving the special ruling licenses is gonna help anybody, it's really not.
No, I didn't think that.
That it's gonna put them where they can't sell it.
And as a matter of fact, if in fact license is taken by the township, it doesn't revert to the township.
No.
Goes back to it goes to the state, so the town.
It's just good
township in effect
information for
loses
people
the
to,
license.
I think for a community to understand.
Yeah.
Where
I
the
know.
council falls.
I know it's hard to have those
Can
licenses.
and cannot do.
Right. It's like a car, you own your car, unless you're, no one can make you sell it. So, and all 3 of these licenses have kept up with the special rulings that they need to keep them in pocket. And they do have their tax clearances, and they are paying the local fees and the state fees. The only thing they're not doing is using their licenses.
Thank you.
Thank you for that explanation. It's helpful.
Do we have a vote on
Do we have to make a motion?
Did I take a
Motion.
motion? I'm sorry. I'll make a motion. Sorry.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr.
Fury.
Okay.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we're moving to the annual audit. All members have received a copy of the annual audit. Do we have a representative here?
Donnell is here.
Oh, Danelle? Okay, sure.
Just me again. I can just give just a brief overview. So the key takeaways this year for Vernon Township's audit for 2021 is you can see a large increase in our fund balance, and is obviously a result of strong financial administration and budgeting. Our fund balance, even though we used $625,000 in the budget from 2021, we still resulted in a $2.4 million increase. The total fund balance at the start of this year for 2022 was 6.83 million, which is about 24% of last year's budget. So that percentage, in addition to increases in our trust funds, including reserves for storm damages, as well as accumulated absences, those actually help to reach the ideal spot that we need to be at for bond rating agencies to feel comfortable, which is around 30% in reserves. Those increases were specifically due to increased tax collection rate. You can, if you look in the audit, you can see that specific line of revenue increased substantially. We did have a decrease in expenditures from 2020 that rolled over at the end of 2021. That was just over $1 million. And as well as some cancellation of old reserves that we did for the revaluation and tax maps. The findings in the audit remain the same as last year, with one small additional one that was a one-time occurrence in, unfortunately, routine cleaning and animal control. Some of the licenses got inadvertently destroyed. All items are ongoing or will be remediated by the end of this year.
Regarding the tax collection rate, I believe it's up to 96%.
Yes, over 96, correct.
What can we do to increase that? And, or is it coming from just one or two major taxpayers?
Right. So, we do take in a lot of delinquent taxes every single year. So that did increase last year as well. The idea is that we need to bring in those delinquent taxes in the current year, right? So anyone, whether it's a home or a very large commercial property, anyone that's not paying taxes in the current year is going to affect our current year rate. So even if they pay it, on January 1, that unfortunately does not go to our last year's rate, which affects our budget, which affects our RUT. So it affects anything. So is there one specific property? I mean, there's a few properties. The audit did point out 2 large homeowner associations that have significant amounts of tax title liens. So yeah, I mean, there are specific ones that do affect that, but they're not the only ones.
Anybody else have any questions?
I'd like just to add, you said RUT, that's the reserve for uncollected taxes. I believe that was $3.3 million. The audit is a great tool for budgets, and then you can go back and check on everything, principally from Legends and Tall Timbers. I think there's 500 liens coming out of those 2 communities since you brought that up. The audit recommendations are minor. It's been the same. Segregation of duties of treasury functions, that's been there probably for 8, 9 years. I just want to commend Danelle, Ms. Bright has been diligent in controlling our expenditures and structuring the debt that has saved us tens of thousands of dollars. And I think Ms. Bright and her staff should be commended on the work they've been doing.
She's literally outstanding, and several times, I've mentioned it. She's really good.
Thank you.
I'd like to mention, my only comment is I reiterate what the mayor and Harry Shortway say, that Danelle and her staff do an excellent job, and she should be commended for an excellent job.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to place resolution 22-188 on the floor?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Short. I'm sorry,
Mr. Fury.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Any question or comment? If not, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Sure. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to place resolution 22-189? Correct.
Make that motion.
Plan for 2021 audit. Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. Shortway.
Shortway.
Mr. Shortway, thank you. Any questions or comment?
No.
Roll call, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Carries.
Move to public comments. 5 minutes on any topic.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Fury to open the floor to the public. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Seconded by Mrs. Fury. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Floor is open to the public on any issue they wish to bring to the council.
It's my turn now.
They get longer.
Carol Zafria. Thank you for hearing me out tonight. I am the owner of Move For You ice cream truck. You might have seen it around Vernon. I've been at the Makers Market a number of times. And the reason I'm coming before the council is because there's an ordinance that the council has that's pretty old that only allows certain individuals to have trucks to be parked or to, there's not even to drive around to sell ice cream in the town here of Vernon. And as you all may know, as you go back in your childhood, you know, the nostalgic ice cream truck coming around, it's something I really feel that Vernon can benefit from. We have had very good experiences. We opened our business at the end of April, and we're actually able to service a number of schools in Sparta. And how our truck is different and unique is, one, it represents Sussex County. It is a cow, and it does moo, and it has all the other features of Sussex County that we all enjoy. But of most important to us, I am a mother of 5 children, adult children now. I'm also a stepmom of 5 other boys. I'm also a foster mom in Sussex County. I'm a 911 dispatcher and EMD. So children and fixing has been my lifelong thing. But we have been able to service like Pope John School in Sparta. We offer 30 varieties of prepackaged ice cream, which include a nut-free variety, which is safe for schools, an egg-free and a dairy-free, and also sugar-free. So unlike the other, you know, maybe other towns that you might see ice cream trucks in, ours holds its unique Sussex County name and also to the variety that we offer. The ordinances that we're looking at that seem to be giving us a problem is, you know, when we came to get our licensing in Sussex County, we were very easily able to get inspected, you know, from the Board of Health. Everything went well with that. You give your driver's license, your pictures, you run ID. We were able to go to Franklin, which required actually fingerprinting through Identico, which I needed to go through. We also hold licensing in Ringwood, Wayne, Pompton Lakes, and Pompton Lakes, a town I grew up in, also required the truck to be inspected from the police department to make sure the safety was there for the children crossing the streets. But like I said, in Vernon, there is some exceptions to some of the ordinances, and one of them is 428-8, the exceptions, that the only ones that are able to go around are census takers, any veteran, and exempt volunteer firefighters, which we obviously, as our company LLC, we have utmost respect for the firefighters and the veteran. I come from a military family. My dad served in World War II, something we're very proud of. But unfortunately, these exemptions are now holding our business back here in Vernon. And like you reiterated, with a population over 25,000, 20% being under the age of 18, we feel that our company that coming in here, we should be able to drive around to give our services. Currently, right now, under some of these ordinances, which is 428-5, with the use of private property without written notice, we're having to conduct all our business through text messages with getting permission to come to certain areas like Crystal Springs, or to Sparta for block parties, or even here in Vernon to block parties. And that's creating like kind of like a business hype for us, you know, like we can't really dive into this and we can't really be part of the community, we feel, you know, having all of those limitations. I do though agree though there has to be some perhaps boundaries to the ordinances, such as making sure that if other ice cream trucks come in, they are, you know, their drivers are fingerprinted. We do have our children at stake here, and you have a van pulling up with ice cream. Of course, any child's going to want to run to that. So making sure background checks, which we all had to have, you know, having the Move For You ice cream truck, and safety of our children. One of the other ordinances of the town is making sure that we're not driving through congested areas. which I totally agree. And also to utmost respect for other businesses. In Vernon, we have Dairy Swirl and we have Dairy Queen. And obviously our truck would never be within those vicinities of parking. But because of the ordinances, we cannot stay stationary parked anywhere. So like the Makers Market is wonderful, we're there. Although the establishment that is adjacent to that does sell ice cream, they have allowed us graciously to be part of the Makers Market.
24 seconds.
So, you know, at this time, we're just expressing our concerns. We have 10 weeks left of summer. So we were just looking to see if we could have some type of motion to give us the ability to drive around within maybe the same parameters as Franklin has. They are in the borough, which is not after 9 o'clock at night, and not parking near food establishments where you're going to be having the same common, you know, ice cream sales.
Thank you for your comments. You know, I would have to question whether or not you would have to go to the, after tonight, being whacked on the hands a few times. Maybe you might want to think about going to the,
Land use board.
well, I would stop over and see the,
Go to the zoning office.
the zoning board,
Okay.
the secretary, and see what would be the procedure to have.
Well, what we were told is that because of the ordinances in place, the ordinance has to be voted on being changed first, because it does specify census takers, any veterans, and exempt volunteer firefighters for parking anywhere. So it's very specific, the ordinance. So like in Franklin, for example, they give us a tax map. We can park and drive anywhere within their tax map. Here in Vernon, we are, you know, almost like choked out by this ordinance, and it's really old. And I feel like the community, honestly, the quicker we can do this, the better for our children, our schools especially. You know, we're going for field days, we're going for parties.
Yes, thank you. I think there's some background, especially on 428-8, where sense that you're talking about veterans and veterans benefits on things like that. So there might be a problem there. We'll have to look into it and see if we can't get back to you on it.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Please leave your phone number and name with the.
Can I give the flyer?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
give it to our clerk. Thank you.
Email and phone number is listed on there.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the council?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pamela Cronin. So I have to sign in right here. I own 2 properties in Tall Timbers, and I got a phone call today from our administrator, George Kopak, who said he was here today for a sit-down meeting with, he mentioned the mayor and the fire marshal and perhaps some members of the building department, perhaps Mr. Volker, I'm not sure, in which the matter of short-term rentals of our properties was discussed. And first, I'd like to just clarify before I go on and on any further. Did a town meeting occur here today about that? And if so, with who and what was decided?
I know nothing about it.
It wasn't the council, I mean, the mayor maybe, or the Chuck, do you know about it?
Yeah, the manager of Tall Timbers came here.
Okay.
I was not directly involved in the meeting, but I was where he came in.
Okay, gotcha, thank you. And he said, well, he said pretty definitively that some things were decided, but wouldn't say what they were, and that,
You're the president of the organization, aren't you?
no, I'm just a property owner.
Okay.
I own 2 properties.
Are you a village president?
No.
No. Okay.
Just a property owner.
He said that there was going to be a meeting involving all the village presidents, or they refer to them as presidents or leaders.
We each have, it's a unique setup. We each have our own individual condominium boards, and then there's the overarching Tall Timbers board.
He said he was going to have a meeting with them, and then he would let us know how that worked out.
Oh, okay.
But he
Well,
had-
he said to me that the town created some rules and regulations today that will be distributed to us next week that prohibit short-term rentals in Tall Timbers.
No, that's up to the homeowners association to decide about short-term rentals.
Okay, that's what I
He asked
thought.
about was if, he asked the fire marshal about short-term rentals for RVs, and RVs are not dwellings.
Right, right. And that's the other thing I wanted to discuss.
So they can't be considered short-term rentals if it's not a building or, a dwelling.
Right. So if it's an RV that's movable,
Excuse me.
yes,
I believe you could probably get your answer in a more complete fashion if you made an appointment to see the business.
oh, yes, yeah, that certainly makes sense. So let me get to the point that does concern the council, which is the wording of the ordinance, kind of, I think, what we were going to anyway. The ordinance defines a short-term rental property as a quote, a residential unit, a residential dwelling unit that is used and or advertised for rent as a short-term rental for transient occupants as guests. So it specifically says residential dwelling unit. In other places, it also refers to residential neighborhoods, residential properties, residential dwelling units, homes, and homeowners. As you all know, Tall Timbers is zoned as seasonal recreational, is very explicitly prohibited in its bylaws to be used as a residence, and very specifically prohibits permanent structures of any kind. So everything has to be movable, whether it's a park model RV or just, more of a travel trailer RV or fifth wheel, whether it looks like a tiny house or not, it has to be movable. It's actually in the bylaws. It has to be demonstrated to be movable on demand within 24 hours at any time. So there's no permanent structure. So, but I understand and completely agree with the need to regulate short-term rentals. I mean, it's a safety matter. The township can and should be getting their cut of the taxes from it, which I understand happens automatically through some platforms, but not others. So I completely agree that, to do something like this it would be prudent to have regulations around it. And that's why you created ordinance number 2133 in the first place, right? So we came to the township and we submitted a permit or application for short-term rental permit, which, let me back up a bit. I ended up with two sites that I no longer use for myself anymore. There was a site of mine and a family member. It's my husband's fault because he was in the site across the street and we were there up during the pandemic for the entire time, falling in love, getting married. Now I stay in the camper across the street with him, and I've got these extras that I still want to have for my friends and family, but kind of need to be able to cover the expenses of. So the idea of short-term rentals is what makes the most sense to me. But I've always been a rule follower my entire life. I want to do everything by book. So I tried. I submitted the application, all the documentation. I obtained the necessary liability insurance, paid the fees, et cetera, et cetera. And the only missing piece was the inspection from I guess it's the fire marshal does these inspections. And I think that's because it's essentially a C of O. The limited studying I've had time to do, I think I understand that in long-term rentals, whenever there's a change or house sales for that matter, whenever there's a change of occupancy, a new C of O needs to be established. And when it's a short-term rental, there's like constant change of occupancy every couple of days. So that's not feasible. So instead they come up, and as most townships and counties and so on have across the country, they've come up with this permit thing where you get essentially your C of O once a year to make sure your place is safe, that you have people coming in and out of. Problem is, we can't get a C of O because we don't have permanent structures in Tall Timbers. So I think that's how we're kind of falling through the cracks, and we're getting a lot of mixed information. I've spoken to several people at the town. Obviously, a longer sit-down conversation is in order too. But the initial information that I've attempted to get is incredibly confusing, not clear, and our board is certainly confused as well. Just to clarify, our bylaws and the wording in our deeds explicitly allow us to do this. So.
Can you wrap it up, please?
Yes, sorry. I have a couple of suggestions, namely, I understand that the reason we're kind of falling through the cracks and that the current ordinance can't really work for us in order to be compliant, which we want to be compliant, is the missing ability to do a C of O. I wanted to propose that perhaps there could be a tweak, as was said earlier tonight, to the ordinance to have the annual DCA inspection that all of Tall Timbers goes through serve as sort of a substitute for the C of O, so that we can comply with your short-term rental ordinance. I will follow up obviously with more information, but what would my next step be as far as following up on getting a modification formally proposed for this ordinance? I'm not sure how that works.
I'd have to check with the attorney, see what is required and see if in fact one can be given. So I think this is not something that's going to be handled here today.
Right, I understand. Yep, just wanted to come,
Thank you.
plant the seed in everyone's minds and figure out what I should do next.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Seeing no one coming before us?
That's okay.
Give everybody else an opportunity. Eric Card again. Still dealing with my pool problems here. Been told for, I don't know, 8 weeks now. Gonna get some information. Gonna get some documentation to show me what I'm specifically missing and what I specifically need, supported by documentation. Still not getting it. But every other week I come up here and there's always either an accusation or, I'm accused of something or something's going on or I'm changing my question. I haven't changed anything. Still asking the same question. Told the mayor's gonna get it. Told you said you were gonna get it. Told the attorney's gonna get to me.
I never said I was going to get it.
Well, you said you were gonna look into it and you're gonna get it.
I had to look into it. But I, before we go any further, I think you were asked to get a survey. And you said a survey wasn't required.
Correct, and I did provide a survey. That was the funny story, because if you go back to the first comment I had, yeah, I provided a survey.
But that was a site survey from a bunch.
I believe that from the information that was provided, the survey that was provided was first a site survey. And then there was an older site type of document given to the township. And I believe the township asked for you to provide a current survey showing that the proposed pool complied with the setback requirements of the ordinance. And that's what the town's asking for, is for a current survey showing where the pool improvements are so that you can demonstrate that the proposed improvement complies with the setback requirements. Now, I have not seen the documents that you submitted, but I have no reason
Emailed to you,
to doubt. How do you know they were emailed to me?
because you were included in the email he sent me. So was he, so was Brian.
Oh, no, the actual documents,
I
the
did.
survey.
I did send the survey.
The survey I saw was not a current survey. Is that it?
Well, you're saying current survey. There's a confusion here because the ordinance doesn't require a survey. Matter of fact, it specifically states, doesn't even state that I have to fill out a zoning application. It states that I must provide a detailed drawing based on the setbacks and meets and bounds of the property, showing specifically where the pool is being placed.
Mr. Carter, I don't want to have a debate with you tonight about what is required to show compliance with site and setback requirements of particular zoning ordinances. I believe you have a lawyer. Have your lawyer call me. If he's not your lawyer, have your new lawyer call me. But this is not the appropriate forum for us to have a debate about land use law.
Well, I'm not trying to have a debate. I'm asking for is please provide me literature that tells me where I'm not compliant, because I'm told I need this for a zoning application I really don't even need to apply for. And then I'm denied because the application is incomplete, but you just cash my check.
Mr. Carter, I think you've been told what's required, and unfortunately you don't like the answer. So that's.
Well, that is not true. I'm just asking to.
No, I think it is true.
Documentation that supports what you're telling me, because every time I give you documentation, I'm told I need something else. And that's not supportive of your documentation. I'm just asking for the documentation.
Okay.
Can anybody provide that? Or is that just, I've tried open requests. I've tried speaking to multiple people. I don't know how to get the information that you're telling me I'm not providing, because everything I'm reading, I'm providing.
No, you're not.
How can you provide where your setbacks are and your meets and bounds without getting a current survey?
Because last I checked, we didn't have a continental divide and my property line moved because the meets and bounds of my property are still there. The meets and bounds specifically state the size of my property, how wide it is, how long it is, and where my foundation is placed on that. So there's no requirement based on the fact that I'm not giving you the information you're asking for. And then I'm just simply asking for documentation to support what you're asking me for. Because everything I'm reading, I'm giving you. You know, if there's some secret or something like that that I'm unaware of, please, somebody just explain it to me. Because this is absolutely absurd. I mean, I'm putting a for sale sign at my house at this point, because to be honest with you, I can't take this anymore. This is, I've never been dealt with this in 40 years of construction. I've never been dealt like this in my entire life. I've never once had to ask for a piece of documentation and denied it. I mean, these are your rules, right? I'm trying to follow them. Just give me the supporting information so I can follow them. That's all I'm asking. Question still hasn't changed, despite the fact that I'm being told that I slipped in a deck, or I did this, or I did that, or I'm a fraud, or I'm a liar. Despite all that fact, nobody's producing any of that. I've given you the documentation. I've showed you the documentation. The deck is on the drawing. So what am I sneaking in? What am I hiding? I gave you all the information the town gave me. None of it is supporting what you're asking me to do. I mean, I got to spend $1,300 to $2,000 on a new survey?
100.
Well, you know what, Brian, then you pay the $800.
That's what you want.
Well, the bottom line is for $800 project for, I'm sorry?
I took it back. I take it back.
Okay. But the point is the $800 isn't the principle here, or the $2,000. Because I don't know, I'm getting different numbers from different people. And it all depends on how fast it can be done. But the bottom line is I don't know what to tell you. Just give me the documentation, please. Somebody step up and give me the documentation to support what you want me to do. And if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. Everything I'm reading, not seeing it. I'm only seeing one person that's demanding it.
Thank you.
Can I get an answer on who's maybe going to get me this documentation, or we're just going to ignore it for another 8 weeks?
I've spoken to as many people as I can, and everything comes back that you're lacking. You need a survey.
But sir, I've sent you a survey.
You need a
It says
survey, a current survey.
Time is up.
That's what's required.
But please, for Christ's sakes, show me some documentation that says it's provided a current survey. So what you're saying is a survey that was done in 1950 is not valid today when there's no changes in the property?
Nope.
How?
I don't make the laws. I follow them.
Well, I'm trying to follow them. Can you please give me documentation to support
Council
that?
President, I'm going to ask if our attorney can tally up all the hours that he put in to find the information that he has now to give Eric, and please send Eric that bill. Because why does the taxpayer have to give out free advice, legal advice, when this gentleman keeps firing his attorneys when he doesn't get the answer that he wants?
Okay, well, first off,
Thank you, Mr. Carr.
you should refrain from
Please
talking.
remove him from the building if he doesn't sit down.
Right. Well,
Thank
just
you very
remember,
much.
Brian, about who's being a fraud, who says they're running for mayor while you're voting for an English.
No, you know what? I'm sorry I broke your heart. Don't vote for me.
I'm leaving, Brian.
Good,
Don't
goodbye.
talk to me anymore, okay?
Goodbye.
Good luck with your mayor run.
Thank you. I help you.
Thank you,
support me.
thank
You'll
you.
need it, sir.
Anyone else? Move to close the meeting to the public.
I have.
Oh, you have somebody?
I'll try Mr. McClackery.
Mr. McClackery? Mr. McClackery?
Your problem.
He's not.
I want to check something. I'll be right back.
I have Jesse Palladini.
Ms. Palladini?
Hello again. First of all, let me say, I applaud you for walking out on the mayor. You do not even need to allow him to speak, much less allow him to wrestle control of the meeting. My comment is about getting a title search for Black Creek Drive. You must get a title search for Black Creek Drive. I'm very surprised to hear you say that you're pretty certain you own the road, and I'm wondering based on what, when I found no deed going all the way back to 1930 that says you do. Mayor Burrell stated at a recent meeting, granting Mr. Mulvihill an easement in 2012, which was an inappropriate thing to do, is proof that the town owns the road. That is not proof. Just because things were done wrong in the past and assumptions were made, you cannot continue the wrongdoing. Now is the time to make this right. Not getting a title search would be reckless malfeasance and dereliction of duty. Secondly, I just want to very quickly say that Mr. Zelinski again gave wrong advice to the council, not to mention the outrageous thing he did to you about a half hour ago, but I won't get into that part. He gave the council wrong advice again. I personally have no intention whatsoever to do a petition for a change in government, but he said that doing so would require a petition. That is not accurate. The law allows for the council to put a question on the ballot to create a charter study commission. No petition required. You just put a question on the ballot to create a charter study commission, to make a recommendation, and at the same time, individuals would run to be on that commission. I think it's 5 people. I'm not sure. Have to look at the statute again. But that's all you have to do to consider changing the government in Vernon. You, as a council, have that authority to do that. I don't know any citizens who care to walk around all day getting 3,000 plus signatures when you, the council, can do that if you so choose and want to do that. That's all. Thank you.
Peg DeStassi.
Mr. Stassi?
Hi, thanks again. I have a couple things to cover. With the Webb resolution that you approved this evening, my main question is who's going to pay the bill for the study that's going to be done by the town engineer? Is that going to be paid by Webb? I don't think it should be. They will pay it?
There.
Okay, good. Just wanted to clarify that. I did want to make a statement that this is exactly why the pump track and the trail did not belong in a light industrial area. You now have a business who wants to do and expand their business, and you have a town park sitting next to it, and it's creating a problem. And that's why it was an inappropriate placement for the park as well as the trail. But that's just my opinion. Again, I want to congratulate Brian and Natalie for removing themselves from the meeting when the mayor so rudely and abruptly carried on like he always does with every meeting. I would like to say, Mayor, you do realize that you're a guest at this meeting. It is not your meeting to control. The president of the council is in control of the meeting, and he chooses who can speak and when. When he asks you to refrain, you refrain. You do not control this meeting. If you want to get a soapbox and stand on it, do it on your own time, but not on the council's time. People are tired of hearing you and you're going on. you've spent a lot of time over the last 7 months trying to create a huge bias situation in this town with your constantly attacking the council for doing their job. They don't have to bow down to what you want. They are there to counteract you. It is part of the checks and balances of the town municipal government. Just because they don't agree with you doesn't mean they're wrong. And you have no right to attack them when they do ask questions or do vote against what you're doing. Now, the only other thing that I would like to ask is, and I've mentioned this before, when the resolutions for any kind of bonds are put on, it was great that they now are giving the date and the amount and such, but we still need a description of what is entailed. Otherwise, you got to sit here and go back looking through the new website for the resolutions that were written in 2008 and 2011, trying to find what it is. And you can't even find them on the new website, because in spite of what the mayor says about the wonderful new website, this is one of the most difficult websites that I've ever seen. There's a lot to be desired about how this is set up. It's very difficult to find anything. I can tell you that I've spent hours looking for documentations and things. It really neat, and a lot of it isn't up to date, by the way. There's a lot of things missing. There's the other thing I'd like to mention is that there are a lot of boards that are let me just say this and I'll get off. There are a lot of boards that are not keeping their minutes that they are required to take up to date. Some of them are more than 6 months behind. So I would like to ask the council to please reiterate that they're supposed to be posting minutes. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stasny.
You're welcome.
I have Ann Larson.
Mrs. Larson?
Thank you very much. I have to tell you the truth. I'm so angry at the mayor's behavior that I'm actually seething and shaking. I have noticed for quite some time the disdain with which he treats the council president. And it's especially troublesome being that you are neighbors for 40 odd years. I find the disdain and contempt oozing out of him repulsive. I think you're way over your head. I don't think you remember that more people voted against you than for you. Before you get yourself all high and mighty there and, all that and a bag of chips, more people voted against you than for you. Okay. So I would recommend that the council, please, first of all, I think that you should resign. And I think this is exactly the kind of stunts that Frank Pallotta was discussing with that last humiliating debacle with the photo. I mean, you just can't stop causing so much aggravation and angst in this township, all this ruckus with a simple photo. So I think you should resign, but he shouldn't be having commentary at the meetings. He's just a member of the public at your meetings, and he should be limited to the 3 minutes and 5 minutes like everybody else gets. And please, somebody get a hook like they had in vaudeville and pull him off the stage. The contempt this man displays is it's awful. It's just awful. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Sally Rinker.
Ms. Rinker?
Let's see if I can.
Mrs. Rinker? Is there anyone else?
I do not have any other hands up.
Mrs. Rinker?
Yeah, it said she was using an older version of her.
There's another hand up.
Oh, this is Sean Mazur.
Mr. Mason?
Yes, good evening again. I wanted to get some answers here on how the council has progressed with their attempt to revise the vacant and abandoned property ordinance to align with the New Jersey bill that the governor signed.
I believe.
Is no one aware of that? I believe I sent documentation to you times.
Nope, we are aware of it. We're reviewing it.
Okay. So in the meantime, don't you think it would be a wise thing to table this ordinance until you're able to revise it instead of bringing people like myself to court on ridiculous charges?
Don't answer.
Mr. Mazur, I believe you're the subject of a current municipal matter. Is that correct?
Tomorrow's the date. Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'm going to advise the council not to respond to that question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yes, I do. You know, to listen to everyone bicker back and forth and to see the lack of coordination, and actually even people showing up with Harry and Mike not even showing up for meetings anymore. I mean, I work with developers that a lot of them actually avoid New Jersey, but you know, we want to have development in Vernon, but yet look at the stuff that goes on in these council meetings. I mean, look at the way you treat a gentleman who has a house